we begin, before we begin, I'd just like to, for us to take a moment tonight to remember Eric Larrabee, who passed away yesterday. Eric, a former school committee member and a great advocate for the schools. So if we could take a minute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to just take a moment to express my thoughts, and I believe speaking for the whole committee, both current and past members, we're extremely saddened by the news of the untimely passing of our friend Eric Larrabee. He was a veteran, a retired police officer, and an advocate for children, and above all, a truly dedicated family man. His active community volunteerism included serving multiple terms in the Westport School Committee. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Eric's family. So.
Thanks, Mike. Okay. Comment, and this meeting is being recorded. Comments and statements from the public. Informational agenda, superintendent's update.
Thank you. We have one new hire since our last school committee meeting. We have recently hired Krista Davison. Krista will start with us after the first of the new year, and she will be the teacher in the newly created special ed classroom over at the middle school. We have had a couple of resignations. Eileen Mendonca, the secretary over at the Westport Elementary School, will be leaving us. Her last day will be actually tomorrow in the district. Eileen, though, is not going too far. She'll still be working for the town, working as a secretary for the Council on Aging. We also lost our human resource executive assistant, Shelby Allen, so we will be replacing that position as soon as possible. I would like to share some good news. We have had 29 students been approved to receive the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. It is my hope that later on, after the first of the year, we'll be able to invite the 29 students to our school committee meeting and recognize them personally. But in order to be eligible to receive the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship, the students had to have scored either advanced or proficient on the grade 10 MCAS, with at least one of those in English or in math being proficient. And they had to have had a combined score that places them in the top 25% of their graduating class. So we're very, very pleased and proud that we have 29 students here at Westport receiving that. And as I said, we will invite those youngsters to come to a school committee meeting and be recognized. Over at the middle school, staff will begin preparing very, very soon for the NELMS evaluation. We have had our Macomber School accredited. We've had our high school accredited. And now we'll be inviting in on April 7th, 8th, and 9th the New England League of Middle Schools. In the meantime, our teachers are engaged in a self-study on a smaller scale, but definitely similar to what the high school staff endured for their accreditation. And in the third week in December, a parent, teacher, and staff survey will be administered. Also at the middle school, there is the first spelling team competition. The kids will be competing for the Massasoit League in Raynham, so we wish them well. And then on December 17th, we are quite pleased and excited that the entire grade 8 will be attending UMass Dartmouth for the Hour of Code. As a follow-up, 2 days later, we will have folks come and do a follow-up presentation to both our 7th and 8th graders in-house. Over at the elementary school, just this week, the New Bedford Symphony Orchestra came thanks to the boosters, Mrs. Duart, Jane Dufault, and several others brought the symmetry program to the elementary school. And Mrs. Dufault says that the target audience was grade 2 and above. They invited the first graders. The kids did a terrific job. She says the students were attentive, engaged, and very respectful. It's a tribute to the hard work the faculty and administration put forth every day of the school year. The kids will have a follow-up program in their classrooms from some of the folks who were part of this program. So a nice opportunity, and thank you to the boosters for that. Over at the Macumber School, in its attempts to help the youngest children learn the gift of giving, they've helped numerous families so far this holiday season and plan to continue to do so. They collected food for the Council on Aging, the food pantry, to their giving tree. They've helped 4 families during the Thanksgiving season and plan to help over 15 families during the Christmas season. As you know, we are upgrading our phone system. Bob Noguera, when he does his presentation tonight on technology, will talk a little bit more about that. Inadvertently, an incorrect message was sent out before the correct message last evening, but Bob will talk a little bit more about the new phone system. Tomorrow afternoon, we will switch over. We'll have new numbers here in the high school as well as in the administration offices. In the meantime, if a parent calls the current telephone number, there will be a prompt telling them what the new correct number will be for about a month, and that'll be put in place to give folks an opportunity to learn the new telephone numbers. And the next system that will be put in place will be over at the Macumber School. But as I said, Bob will talk and address that a little bit more in a bit. We have recently looked into a new student information system. As you know, MMS is a very archaic student information system. We have outgrown it, and it has not grown and kept up with the needs of the data storage that we have to have, and in particular, the reports that we need to funnel through to the state. So we have looked at several systems, and based on the Department of Ed's recommendation, we have decided to explore School Brains. They seem user-friendly, easy to work with, and we're hoping that after the first of the new year, we'll be able to start some professional development, particularly with the high school, to get that up and running by the end of the school year. Just this week, Mrs. Africano and I attended the cable meeting, and we are pleased that on Monday evening selectmen's meeting, some of the recommendations will be presented to the selectmen, and if all goes well, we'll be able to have an AV club at the elementary, the middle, and the high school, as well as some additional purchases in the area of AV for our students. The capital improvement meeting was yesterday afternoon. Mr. Viveris and I attended that, and there'll be another follow-up meeting next week. And the town has received the information that Mike Duart put together, and Mike is currently tiering that so that it'll be able to be put in a 5 to 6 year longitudinal plan as well. With respect to park, that is the new assessment that the Commissioner and the Board of Education recently voted on for a 2-year trial period. As you know, we've been selected as a pilot district, as have 2 other districts in the Commonwealth as well. Our 4th graders, our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders will take the performance assessment in late March, early April. We have had to do a random selection, so 2 classes at each of those grade levels, and the state put out a random selection meter where teachers' names were entered, the meter spun, and classes have been selected or are in the process of being selected. So we'll be able to share that information after the first of the year with you as well. We have to notify the Department of Ed by December 6th on whether we are going to ask for an exemption, meaning those 2 classes who take the park assessment, whether they will have to take MCAS or not. And again, it's only in the area that the park administration would actually be given. So our 4th graders and our 6th graders are taking it in the area of math. They would still have to take MCAS in ELA. Meeting with the administrators, we decided that we would not ask for the exemption. The scores may be skewed when they ultimately would come out late August, early September. And it's our feeling that by having a 21-day window to do the park assessments is not going to impact MCAS. The park assessment in March for grade 4 and grade 6 is in the area of math. They take MCAS anyway in ELA. So our feeling is we're going to ask the kids to participate in both of those. And then finally, I'm going to let Melinda talk a little bit more, but in your packet, there's a really nice initiative that's going on here at the high school. It's called Pay It Forward, and I hope that you will wear your bracelet with pride. The high school will also be hosting a week from tomorrow at 7:45 in the morning, a learning walk and coffee for parents of grade 8 students. Certainly those in grade 7, if they would like to come and hear the presentation and visit the school as well. But primarily it'll be geared for our parents of students who are in the 8th grade to hopefully let them see all the good things that are going on here at our high school and make the best informed decision. And we'd love all those kids to come to our high school next year. So those are my updates.
I just want to add one thing regarding the Symmetry and New Bedford Symphony Orchestra. The concerts on the Point also were very instrumental in making sure that this got here, and I wanted to make sure that they got their kudos out there. They were a funding source for that project, and they'll also be a funding source for the Symphony Tales that we're hoping to get into the MAC. So I wanted to make sure they get out there.
And we have our ornament performance on Friday evening, and that proves that that will be a great time too. There are still tickets, so come on out and hear that performance, and it's a great fundraiser for the boosters as well.
Okay, great. Any questions for Dr. Dodd? Okay. Next on the agenda, Melinda Tripp. Ms. Tripp, how are you? Good. Melinda is our student representative.
Hello. So we've had a few events at the high school, but first of all I'm going to start talking about the Pay It Forward thing that we're doing for Honor Society. It's basically based on random acts of kindness to strangers, and they're kind of trying to promote this to every school, everyone around, and we're selling bracelets for $1. So that's a really good fundraiser that we're doing. Also, our SEAL leadership group has just held an 8th grade orientation at the middle school, and we were able to give a presentation to them to let them know what the high school is all about, and they were able to ask us any questions they had. Also, the student council is preparing for pep rally. We're organizing different activities for the event, and we're also doing a penny war fundraiser during the 2 weeks prior to Christmas vacation, and that will fund student council and the individual grades as well. And we're also working on building up our school store, and we're getting ready for the Chipotle and BJ's fundraisers. Boys and girls basketball tryouts just started this week, and they're preparing for a successful season. And also the Advocats have done a few things in November. They've done the cancer walk at WHS. We did a cancer awareness t-shirt fundraiser. We did a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, an alumni volleyball game, a Thanksgiving food drive, and a Thanksgiving Day basket delivery to the needy in Westport. Also, we have some December events coming up. We have a giving tree, Wear Red on Fridays to support AIDS and drinking and driving prevention. And we also have the Jolly Jaunt Run and Walk on December 7th in Taunton. And there's a homeless shelter volunteer in December 10th from 4:30 to 7 in Fall River. There's Hat Day on December 13th, and then there's a courtyard cleanup to prepare for the memorial mural that we're planning to do at the high school, which is good. So there's a lot of fundraising happening at Westport, and that's pretty much it.
And you find time to do all your homework and everything.
Yeah, I try.
Okay. Great. Any questions for Melinda? Thanks, Melinda.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. All right, mask update. And you want to?
Several of us had the opportunity early November to spend a couple of days down the Cape. It was a conference hosted by the Mass School Committee Association as well as the Superintendent Association. Each day there were some keynote speakers as well as several conferences and workshops that we were able to attend. I had an opportunity to attend a session on interest-based bargaining. I also had an opportunity to attend a session on how to look at really some cost savings within your district. We had an opportunity to hear a gentleman speak about Abraham Lincoln and all of the good leadership qualities that he exhibited. So it was a good opportunity to not only network, connect with other school committee members and other superintendents, but also able to come away with a lot more information as well.
Yeah, so myself, Mike, and Melissa attended, and different breakout groups. One of the ones I did was about building new schools and cost saving, programs and things for buildings, and that was very interesting. Policy, we attended one on policy, which was also very good. It was put on by Mask. We got a bunch of materials here if you guys want to look at.
Sure. There were a few takeaways from the meeting. One was some of the different ideas in regards to public relations and working with your town, and then also the buildings, new buildings, and collaborating with, again, with the town to reduce costs. There were a number of vendors that I also have their information for, so if we do take the route, depending on what happens with the middle school, there was some information there. We were able to see multiple designs on what people are doing for new buildings, including, the different type of module buildings that are available, the different additions. Some of the other things that I thought were really interesting was almost selling your school. And doing that in a way that makes it look attractive as you would almost anything else, like if someone's selling their home, but when people come in, what is the first things that they see? Is it something that's going to say, gee, I want to go here because this looks, really great. So that was, some of the few things that I took away.
Yeah, I just mentioned that, once again, attending the events has multiple benefits. Certainly the specialists that are speaking to the various breakout groups are full of good information, but also the question and answer period. We're hearing from other districts and their inquiries, and it's interesting how their concerns often align with concerns that we have for our district, but also you learn a higher level of confidence that perhaps we're doing things correctly. One particular breakout that I attended was the evaluation. Some districts are just getting started with the evaluation cycles. We've already fully implemented it at all levels, and certainly I think we've mastered it. To have the specialists do a presentation and boil it down, this whole new process, into an easily understood PowerPoint presentation, it becomes more comfortable. So I look forward to the, in fact, tonight I believe we're going to continue to talk about evaluations a bit, and those are just one of the many topics that I learned more from. So,
yeah, one of the interesting aspects of going to these meetings is that you do get to speak to other school committee members, other superintendents, and yeah, you do realize that some of these issues that we have here in Westport, we're not alone, and somebody's out there is going through the same thing or has gone through the same issues, whatever it is. And like Mike said, on on different things, we tend to be, ahead of the curve on some of these things. The evaluations, one example of that. We're not the biggest fish in the pond, but we're certainly not the smallest fish in the pond, for sure. But it's just nice to sit down with these people, and more so the informal sessions afterwards or during lunch, and when people kind of loosen up and they really start giving you the nuts and bolts of everything. And it's nice. We should all try to go next year if we can. Okay. Alrighty. Westport Middle School PCB update. Mr. Silmanello. Good evening.
How we doing? Okay. The PCB issue at the middle school. They completed the first of the 4 rounds of testing for this school year. That was done on October 25th. They tested 18 rooms. 2 of the rooms we did not get results back for because the beaker either broke or there was something wrong with the pump stopped, so they couldn't get results. So those rooms we will test later on during the school year. The 16 rooms that did come back that we do have results for, they were well within the limits. 15 of the 16 rooms were well within the limits. The one room that we've always had the issue with, the guidance office 2 room up near the office, that still obviously came up high. Over the Christmas break, Mike Duard will be painting that room, very similar to how he did it in the music room. Paint the brick, the ceiling, the concrete, all the walls, everything. And then put it back together again. It'll dry, and when they come back to do the second round of testing, which will be, we're hoping for the week of the 13th of January, that room will be retested to see if it's usable again. And if it is reusable, that's going to give us some very good information upon how to rectify some of the other aspects of the building. Do you have any specific questions that I could answer?
Just to clarify,
Yes.
Alec, when we say paint, we mean encapsulating.
It's an encapsulating paint.
Encapsulating.
Yes, it's not just, as Mike puts it, it's like rolling on molasses.
Molasses, yeah.
Yes, it's very, very thick. He did it, it's not an easy process. He and 2 of the other maintenance crew did it with, ventilators on, white suits on in the music room, and painted that. It is not, because there are those ceiling tiles, and it's not the ceiling tiles that are in most of the buildings. I think it's 2x4. These are, 8 feet long ceiling tiles by 2 feet. They weigh a ton. He takes them all out, the room. He paints the entire thing, and as he's painting it, it's a small room. He's going to try to ventilate it somehow because of the fumes. It'll dry, over the week of vacation. He's hoping to do it on the 26th, 27th of December, and then next week it'll dry, it'll air out, and then it'll have another week to cure and whatnot, and then they'll come back and retest it. And we're hoping for positive results. It worked in the music room. That's our, that was kind of our guinea pig, and it did work, so.
Okay. Mike?
Just for clarification for myself as well as any listeners, this is part of our ongoing management program to deal with the fact that there is still some source material, PCBs, within the building.
Yep.
We've spent quite a bit of money to remove the majority of known source material. Remnants remain. Through the Environmental Protection Agency, we've created a plan which includes this capsulation,
Yep.
and certainly this air monitoring is a very significant piece of it, and we'll be doing that 4 times a year.
4 times a year,
in
yes.
various parts of the building, looking for any signs of continued movement of the PCBs
We're
from
looking for those
stable.
numbers. We're hoping the numbers will go down. Most of these numbers, basically, there was some movement on some of them. Some stayed exactly the same. Others, there were movement on them, and others, I want to say room 283 went from, I want to say 88 to 200.
22 to 210.
210. That's the art room.
I was going to ask you which room that is.
That
It's
was
the art room.
yes.
The art room upstairs. That's the only art
Upstairs.
room, right?
Yeah, 200, so it's an upstairs room.
22 to 210.
Yeah.
So giving
It's
us
within the-
data to deal with it, and
Yes. Yep.
no alerts as a result of these tests, so it's all
Yep.
continuing to show that it's a building that we can occupy under our 5-year plan, which we'll evaluate at the end of, which we have looked to possible alternatives for our building needs through the application to the state, and we may undergo that again, so.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of these results, some of these results came back almost, the same as the last time.
That guidance office too, we didn't do anything to it. I'm not sure why they tested it. It wasn't on our list to test. I gave them a list of rooms to test. I'm not sure why it was tested. But it's, we had the idea to go in there, paint it with the encapsulating paint, and then test it. So we'll see what happens.
Do we know on the 28th what the weather was that day? Was it warm, cold? And then again in October, just curious. Because I know that they said that affects it.
Yeah, the weather in October, I don't know what that was. Yeah,
I wonder if maybe we can start seeing if that's something that's, because you kind of see for most of these rooms, there's either a downward trend or an equally upward trend, even if it's slight.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if, there was an excessively hot day when
That
it
the
was
windows
tested.
were open and, yeah,
I don't know, but just going to make the school hotter.
yeah.
Not even so much for the ventilation factor, because I thought that when they did these, they shut the windows. I thought that was something we talked about way back when. We wanted to make sure that we were getting a good reading, right?
And I
thought
think
so because of,
one of the
Obviously, having a window
it
open.
was a normal school day, and what they say is it should be like any other day. So
Okay.
if it's a hot day, you keep the windows open, keep the windows open, and the machine is there. Those particles are going to be in the air anyways.
So if it's a hot day, then the windows are open, it could have affected the numbers, and if
It
it was a
could've.
cold day, it could also lower them because they say the cold. So, okay.
I think we may be able to request from the testing company, because I think that when they do put down samples, they have to do the ambient temperatures and stuff. This is just a summary sheet of what the
yeah, it's
actual
in the,
results are.
their actual
So,
report.
if we
What I
want to
can-
look at that, I'm pretty sure it might be available.
What I can do for you is, this stack came with it, and I can look through it, and they might say in here what some of the temperature was.
Yeah,
I'll get it
I'm
back.
just speculating that normally they would put temperatures and
think.
stuff
Yeah.
like that,
I
so.
mean, I would just wonder if like a room like the art room where you're seeing 22 to 210,
Mhm.
maybe they'd start looking at what's different in that room. Maybe it was excessively hot that day, the ventilation, windows were not open, but they were open everywhere else, and maybe that'll start, at least help us identify
be,
why.
Yep.
I wonder if the heat was on too, if that is at the time when they turned on the heat, or?
No, I don't think the heat was on yet.
No, not too
Okay.
much.
Can we just reiterate though that as much as we're picking at these numbers, all of these numbers are within what we are,
Yes.
even lower than what the EPA is
You're
considering
absolutely
safe.
right.
And they're well below all of what the EPA even
And
considers safe.
even room
so
283,
Is-
that's
yeah.
spiked a little bit, is below
It's
your
almost,
threshold.
it's just about 200, so they're all very much lower than the recommendation. So I just want to make sure that's out there, that,
Are these,
Yeah.
and do we put these results online?
We have in the past, so we will after tonight.
So if anyone
yes.
wants to,
Yes.
so our threshold is 300 nanograms per whatever.
EPA's is higher.
And,
though.
no, the EPA's are higher. We use 300.
Yeah.
And like Alex said, the guidance room, which is a room we have not been using,
No.
I'm sure when Mr. Duarte encapsulates it, it probably should
We hope for a
pass.
change.
Yeah.
And then we could continue to use that.
They're actually already online because they're attached to our minutes as
Okay.
attachments. So if you
Oh.
go to the school committee site
Okay.
and pull up the minutes, the agenda, you'll see it as an attachment. So-
Okay, great.
We usually send these home with the students. So is that something we want to do again?
We hadn't talked about that this year. I mean, we do put it after tonight's meeting. It'll be down at the bottom of the school committee page too as well to make it easier to find, but,
And
yeah.
if that suffices, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see why we need to send it home. I don't know. But we have been sending it home?
In the past 2
Last
years, that
year.
is what
We
we
haven't
have been
sent it.
doing, yes.
But certainly if anybody wants a hard copy of it, you
It'll
know,
be
all they
good.
have to do
They
is
could be
call and
interested,
we'd be
yes.
happy to print out a copy for them then.
Yep, okay.
And just a final note, I think one of the most telling graphics that we also posted was the floor plan, and indicated that all the rooms
Yes.
that had been tested were within more than acceptable range and therefore identified as green space. Any warning spaces previously, like if we looked back at when we started this project,
You're right.
we had an awful lot of red spaces. We no longer have that, so this expensive proposition was a solution, although temporary, and I think that floor plan will continue to provide some comfort for those people that are concerned with the conditions. I'd like to see that on there as well.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Alan. All right. Next on the agenda, technology update, capital plan, FY14 budget recommendations. Mr. Nagaro?
Good evening. I have handouts for all of you. What I would do is start off tonight by giving you all a review of where we were in technology. I went back to 2007, and I picked 2007 because that's when I had the good fortune of landing a position here at Westport Community Schools. And this committee, along with prior committees, especially over the past 3 years, we've spent a lot of money on technology. So I thought it would be nice to start out and show you all where exactly we spent that money. So in 2007, the district technology, back then we only had 3 Windows servers. We just had 2 web servers, the school website. And Moodle, for those of you who don't know, is used for the teachers to post assignments on it and the kids to upload assignments like summer reading. Each employee had 2 logons. Each school was an island unto itself. Our internet bandwidth was only 5 megabits back then, which was really, really slow.
Can they hear you? Yeah, we can hear you, but I'm just wondering if they can hear you at home.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
Bob.
Okay, so anyways, that was what we had back then, and one of the things that bothered me when I first started here that we corrected in 2009, 2010 was every time the power went out in Westport, all our servers would shut down because we had no battery backup, and we had that nice civil defense generator sitting out there, but no way to access the power that the generator puts out and stuff. So in 2009, we put in a power system so we could access the generator. It was a joint technology maintenance project, so we didn't have to bring in any outside contractors. We just provided the hardware. I did the installation and setup of the power array, and Mike did all the electrical wiring for us and stuff, and together we were able to save the district quite a bit of money by doing it in-house, and it's proven its weight in gold. Not that we ever lose power in Westport. Today, in technology, we have 3 virtual servers, and a virtual server allows us to have the server do multiple jobs. Instead of buying all these separate expensive servers, we have 3 that do the job of 8, and we have the capacity to grow and add more applications to it. We have 6 additional physical servers that run the help desk, run the purchase order system, runs MMS. We now do online lunch payments. We have online gradebook and attendance. We have 4 web servers. We have 2 Moodle servers, a gradebook server, lunch payment, and the help desk. We now have centralized storage for all confidential documents and stuff that's stored up here in our, what we call as the data center, that's backed up off-site to the middle school. We use the middle school as our off-site backup location. We now have a single logon. All the schools are interconnected with a high-speed 1 gigabit network connection to all the school buildings into town. And the the leadership team now has remote access. So no longer do they have to stay here till 10, 11 o'clock at night, like during grading time or scheduling time. That can all be done from home now for them. Back in 2007, it was just the educational technology coordinator. It was just the network engineer and just the PC technician. Back then, we only did 5 help desk tickets a day. I went through the old records that I had and notes I had and stuff. And the funny thing I looked at was, back then, the average response time was 5 days for a help desk ticket. It was a paper process that went to the building principal. And when I was putting this together, I was kind of laughing to myself that with the way our classrooms are so interactive and all the cutting edge state-of-the-art stuff we're doing today, the teachers would have our head, and rightly so, on a platter if it took 5 days to get service. Back then we had 600 PCs district-wide, 150 laptops, 10 wireless access points. Today we have myself and Ed. We're overseeing, we're doing about 15 help desk tickets per day on average, with a response time of usually under 24 hours. We pride ourselves on that. We try to treat the classrooms like a mini factory, in the sense that we try to keep them up and running all the time, no matter what. They get top priority when they put in a service request because of the teaching and learning going on. And most of our teachers now say to me, I don't know what I would do without the technology in my classroom if it didn't work. So it's become such an integrated part of the curriculum, part of the lessons. We have 420 PCs, 110 laptops, 365 Chromebooks. And in later slides, I'll show you how that's broken down. We have 110 iPads. We have 115 wireless access points. 113 classrooms, K to 12, have either a smartboard, Mimeo Teach in them, and or an Apple TV. We now have security cameras and card access systems on our network at all the schools. All the boiler and heating ventilation equipment, except for the Matcomer, which I'm working out with Mike Duat to get that, is on the school's network. So Mike can access that equipment from anywhere in the world. So. Technology integration back in 2007. Wasn't a lot going on in technology when in 2007, and I believe that was only Beth's first full year here, because she came in partway through the school year. So we had no interactive classrooms. It was limited to PowerPoint integration with staff and students. They were just doing basic PowerPoints in the classroom with a projector like this on a cart. We had one online web-based educational program that we could never get to work right in Mr. Clark's lab here at the high school due to limitations with our internal network and the bandwidth. The technology data back then was only 5 fields reported to the state. It was done by Jonathan, who was our network engineer at the time, and Elizabeth. They were able to do that in a couple hours. It was done. It never was really that big of a deal back then. Today, technology integration today we have a technology integration supervisor who is in the process of supporting 113 interactive classrooms using over 20 web-based educational sites for instruction and assessment. He instructs staff on methods to enhance and broaden their integrated digital teaching. He's going to be providing support for the PARCC assessment, and currently he's working on aligning the curriculum components to the district-determined measures and goals. Today we have a database administrator, files all the state reports, which are now all those acronyms up there, which I can't even tell you what they all mean. So, maintains daily SIF agent. We're sending data to the state on a daily basis. And that's all being aligned with accounting, HR, reporting, because as you know, HR has to report out to the state on professional status and teacher licensures with the new business manager. Central administration back then, professional development was tracked manually. When I started here, Joan had a little old laptop with a little program that only ran on Windows 3.11. Substitute teacher system was all done manually. People calling people up on the phone saying, "Can you come in and sub today?" All purchase orders were generated by the business office. Today for Central Administration, we have electronic POs at the schools. We have online professional development forms done through ProTracks. We have an online sub-finder system. We have one call. Starting tomorrow, we're going to have a centralized phone system. The nice part about the centralized phone system is we will have the ability to share resources, share phone lines, share, again, resources with the town as well as the school. So we're really one virtual phone system. So if all our incoming lines, like there's an emergency at the school, God forbid, are busy, the town's lines will pick up incoming calls and vice versa. So it's really a nice feat, and it's been a great project to do with the town. We have automated help desk technology that I'm hoping in the next year or so we're going to roll out to the maintenance department as well. And as I said before, the boiler equipment is on the network now. I just want to go over the schools quickly. WHS technology in 2007, 110 student lab PCs, 60 laptops, only Wi-Fi, so the laptops could only be in the library. They couldn't leave the library to go to classrooms. Today, we have 115 student lab PCs, 57 Windows laptops, 90 Chromebooks. So a lot of classrooms are signing the Chromebooks out during the day that you guys have and are currently using. Some of the Chrome carts, I know Bridget is splitting up so a class can have 10 or 12. And sharing them, we have a CAD plotter, and I thought I'd bring these little props to pass around to you guys. We have a 3D model printer for a small high school. We're doing this state-of-the-art stuff where they're actually able to print that on a printer. They design it in CAD. So I thought that that was pretty cool. 90% of the building has wireless coverage, and 33 classrooms at the high school are interactive with a whiteboard projector. The middle school only had 66 student lab PCs, 60 laptops. Wi-Fi was limited to the laptop carts. Today, the middle school has 45 student lab PCs, 35 Windows laptops, 120 Google Chromebooks. 90% of the building is wireless. 40 classrooms are interactive except the band and the music and gym. And like at the high school, they have online access to the student work via Google Docs. One use for that might be is have the kids design the new school or an addition, and then we can print out models to show people.
Those are cool.
How do we print these out?
You know, it's cool. The West, back in 2007, we only had 55 student lab PCs. So the kids at the lower grades where they first start getting introduced to technology and stuff, really there wasn't a lot going on there. Today we have 70 student lab PCs, 110 Chromebooks, 65 iPads. 100% of the building is wireless coverage, 30 classrooms, and I can happily report that Jim is also now interactive, as she now has a projector and now has a Google Chromebook to do interactive gym lessons with the kids and show them different videos on exercising and things like that. And they have online access to Google Docs. The Macomber School, we had 27 student lab PCs, 98% of the building had wireless coverage. Today we have 35 student lab PCs, 14 iPads, 10 interactive classrooms. 98% of the building has wireless coverage. Future of technology, we're moving to a model that where any device and anytime access where the students can log in from either home at school and get access to their schoolwork. This is a little bit different than BYOD, bring your own device to school, in the sense that we're actually using Google's free educational services to host all the student work in the student cloud, so we're not incurring that cost that I know Neighboring districts have spent well over $1 million to build all the infrastructure and all the storage for the student work, where we're actually leveraging Google's educational program, which has been a great success. We're looking forward into the future, hopefully with a new student management system to give parents more online access through a parent portal and through Google Docs and through email. The park assessment, we're actually looking forward to the park assessment in the sense that it's going to give us the ability to get test results back a lot quicker than the standard paper MCAS test. So the feeling is, in talking with Dr. Dargan and members of the admin team, that it is greatly going to improve RTI because we'll have those results right away rather than waiting till August when the student's schedule is already set and stuff, so action can be taken sooner than later.
Bob, can you tell people what RTI is?
RTI is Race to Intervention,
Okay.
where it's designed to keep the children that are having some difficulty to get them the extra help they need so they can be successful. We're in the process of doing a technology assessment audit internally and externally. Dr. Dargan, myself, met with a company that came in that is going to do a full-blown network audit to see where we are at currently. We have a good handle on where we are and what our capacity is, but this company also did Burlington High School, where they are a true one-to-one model where every student has an electronic device. So before we decide to go down that road, we want to bring a company in to look and see what our weaknesses are, so we don't start spending additional or asking for additional money on technology and then find out, well, we need more money on top of that. And I'm working with Dr. Dargan currently and the new business manager to see if we can get any grants to maybe possibly add a full-time PC tech to help out with the service request and keep our response times down low currently. MMS, the Student Information System that we have currently that Dr. Dargan referenced. It's really two separate systems. We've kind of found that out the hard way. The grading system that the teachers use is really separate from the system that the office uses to track attendance. And when the teachers are entering grades, we actually have to stop what the office is doing to get the grade data over into the system and vice versa. There's been numerous issues with grade calculations, grade point averages, report cards, printing results in unnecessary results in manual calculations. We're finding that especially at the high school, with the way the high school does their schedule, which most high schools don't have a fixed schedule like the middle schools and lower grades have, that the high school guidance department and the principal is spending an inordinate amount of time, and the teachers for that matter, calculating their grades and making sure that their grades are correct on there, because we have seen some errors on the report cards and the grades that what the teacher puts in. And it was funny because it wasn't really funny, it was pretty sad that one of them was Shannon McGuire, math teacher here, and she got her grade sheet to approve, and she looks at it and she's like, the totals don't add up and the final average is incorrect. So, we also found that we had an issue with our current MMS, and we called one person for support. They spent over, Michael Purdy, myself, and Cheryl from the high school spent over 4 hours on support with this one person. Didn't fix the problem. We called in again, got somebody else. Problem was fixed in about 10 minutes. We're also finding that there's no health visit components. The nurses are currently tracking all the stuff when students come in for their routine visits for diabetes, asthma, any medical conditions they might have, or a sick visit, or they get hurt. All that's being tracked manually, and there's no easy way for the building administrators to pull up and, for example, to see what kid may have asthma or may have a peanut allergy in MMS. It's an archaic system. So what we're recommending is replacing MMS with an integrated system to manage the student demographics, special education, grades, parent portal, teaching and assignments. We're recommending the system to be hosted off-site so we don't incur the cost of servers. Why should we be spending money on hardware for the system all the time when we can have it at their data center? Paying them as part of the fee. That way it's secure, it's backed up off-site, and then they're responsible for all the updates and all the issues with the state reporting as far as sending data back and forth to the state. We're recommending adding a parent portal for real-time involvement with the parents, so that way the parents can have up-to-date information on their students, and we can get them like I said, real-time information. We're recommending, and I put the website up there so that way, if you choose, you can check it out, schoolbrains.com. Department of Elementary and Secondary Education did recommend this system. They are a Massachusetts-based company. They are located in Osterville, Mass., so they are pretty much local to us. And they were the first state company they were the first company in the state to become certified for sending data back and forth to the state. And they just won an award that Michael Purdy, our database technology integration specialist, sent out. So we've looked at the system. It's truly web-based. It was built for the web and built for modern school systems. It wasn't an older system like MMS and some of the other ones that was brought up and made to look a certain way.
What is the approximate cost of that to purchase and then to maintain on a yearly basis?
The approximate cost.
$30,000 versus another company that we had looked at was $62,000 for the startup. That's the transfer of all of the information from the old system to the new system, including professional development. The annual cost is the same no matter what company we went to. It would be about $19,000. But within that $19,000, we're going to be able to consolidate some of the programs that we already have in existence. So, for instance, eSped, that's our special education IEP management system. We spend about $7,000 on that, so we will be able to take that out of the budget and put it then towards the $19,000. So the company says it's about $12 per student.
And also, in addition, it does the one-call service, and I believe, and don't quote me on this, I think that the cost for that is coming in around $2,000 a year, and that's all included in this system, so that'll be another savings.
When I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we did learn at the Mass conference was that on many things we are ahead of the curve and we're out there. One thing where we are definitely way behind the 8 ball is this MMS. Very, very, very few districts in the Commonwealth still use it. It is ancient. And everyone's getting out of it as quickly as they can. And I think it will certainly make us better if we do the same.
The year one, is it 30 plus 19, or is it 30
No,
and
just
then after
30.
that it's 19?
Yes, and it will be calendar year. So if we start this in January, it's through December. So all of the support, the conversions, they are going to, MMS was not able to put in the school-wide rubrics here from the high school. NEASC recommends that schools have their own unique rubrics. MMS, we were not able to get that data in and get it out onto the report cards. And this company will build every report card unique to Westport and meet our needs.
And it will even do the elementary school report cards, because currently they're doing them as a manual process using Excel, which is very time-consuming.
Why is that? All the other schools can use the system, but the West can't?
No, 2 years ago, the West decided that they were going to move more from a traditional report card to a standards-based report card. And again, it was local, that the report card had to be done manually. And so, being a lean technology department, we just didn't have the manpower, and so it was easier for them to do it on an Excel sheet. They took the time, they were able to change it and tweak it. This new system has already about 60 different standards-based report cards, but if we chose not to use one of those, we could build our own report card as well. So we were offsetting, we were spending a lot of manpower, whereas we will be able to free up a lot of that now with this new system.
First, I want to say thank you. I thought that was an excellent presentation, very detailed. It was great, so thank you for that. The second question is, or the first question, is there any area in our technology budget that we can re-budget around or move around for this expense for next year?
As I alluded to and Bob alluded to, yes. So for instance, $7,000 is in special education. That dollar amount now will be moved over to the technology budget. So there are some line items that will offset the 19,000. So when it's all said and done, we won't have to find additional monies to fund this. It's what we would have been paying for MMS, and all the separate programs will be able to streamline and combine them too as well. The nice feature too is the parent portal, and we hope to be able to get that up and running very, very soon. We didn't have that ability with the MMS program, the way this program offers it.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to point out some of the things that I've learned from you today is that we're moving from a rather heavy burden on our budget administratively to meet our data management needs that the state mandates through putting this more efficient, up-to-date program in place, relieving a cost burden, but also the stresses on administrators and classroom teachers in dealing with this reporting piece, so that we can take advantage of some of the other items that you mentioned, the classroom technology, which is a little separate from MMS, although it is seamless, but we'll be able to put more resources into the classroom to keep up with the rate of growth and improvements that we've been able to maintain. Sure, we also want to do better. Through this data, we've been able to identify specific needs by student and know where we need to put our resources. So it's to be applauded that we're going forward with this type of program, and I look forward to the great results that it yields.
It drove me nuts during report card season as Dr. Dargan and everybody in technology that we were paying all these people, including the high school principal, to sit here and figure out report card problems because MMS can't process the data right. You know, it was such a waste of money in my mind. You know. I have one more handout for you.
And Bob, is about 86 districts in the state now use
Yeah, it's something, I think they have like 60 in the state total.
60, okay. Good, Caroline?
My question would be, where does the original investment come from, the 30,000, to buy the system? The upkeep of the system is one thing. I think we can offset that, but the purchase of the system, where do you expect that money to come from?
We've started to talk to members at the Department of Ed. I think that we'll be able to use a piece of our Race to the Top funds. We are a SIF district already. We were part of the pilot. So there's a piece in the Race to the Top grant that we would have spent on SIF. And so in speaking with the state, I believe there's probably at least about a third, if not half of it, we'll be able to tap into that grant. And we're looking through the budget carefully to see if there are any other areas, particularly at the local schools, to see what their contribution would be to it too as well.
Actually, two things. Those are really cool. I just want to say our students did those. Those are.
And I brought them out tonight, and I didn't know that you guys were going to be talking about the 8th grade visiting the high school, but I just wanted to show the great stuff that we're doing here
I mean,
in this school
can,
system.
I don't know if you can get that at all, but it's a model of a home in there, and it's printed out in 3D, so the kids do this on the CAD or whatever program they use in the CAD lab, and then the printer actually prints it out in 3D, and that's very cool. So kudos to our students for coming up with work like that. That's pretty neat. My next question is taking a look at the technology, and I have to say I'm very proud of the work that we've done in technology. We have really moved forward light years. My one question is, when are we going to be, when I look at Westport Middle School and West, there's only small, maybe 3 and 2 in the West that don't have interactive classrooms. Are we going to make those a priority so all of our classes are interactive? In the West, now you said art, gym is interactive, music and art, I'm sure, could benefit highly from being interactive in the West and the middle school, and I would hope that we can give our extracurricular teachers the same technology that we're putting in our rest of our classrooms.
And we agree. I met with every building administrator today to review their budget, And when we come before you in January and you see the additional needs budget, you will see it for the specialists put in
Okay.
their special requests.
Because I know, I mean, obviously, the art room in the middle school is interactive, it looks like, because it's not on this list, is that
Correct.
correct?
Yes.
I think the art room here is interactive.
Correct.
I don't know if the music room here is. I don't think it is.
No, he's got a projector in there and a laptop,
So he is semi-interactive.
semi-interactive. That's a, and we can have a side conversation later on. That's a tough room.
No, oh, no, that's your job. I'm not stepping on your toes.
No, and I didn't take it that way, but what I'm saying is that's, you know what the room looks like. It's a tough room to mount a whiteboard.
You'll see a
in permanently.
request, though, from the music here in January for a digital lab. So
Yeah.
there are additional requests that are going to be
I just
put in.
want to make sure that our art and music and gym and all of those teachers are getting the same abilities that the rest of our teachers are getting.
Agreed.
Because I would assume art and music, and I'd be interested to see how she interacts with Jim. That'd be kind of neat to see. But
Michael Purdy, who's our technology integration specialist supervisor, I think that's his title. Anyways, when he was in the Hanover district, he was, him and I have already met with Marlo Dennis at the elementary school, and he did some work with Apple TVs and iPads, and they have that app, starts with a V, the name escapes me right now, but that does like the keyboard right on the iPad, and then they can show their work, and so we are working with them to get them the technology, because everybody can benefit from
Sure,
it. That's how the kids
absolutely.
learn today.
absolutely, great.
All right, so now I have my technology budget request. The technology budget itself is pretty much fixed as far as what the costs are in there. I did budget for the increase because MMS's cost went up. All our other costs are pretty much stay the same. So what I did, similar to what the maintenance department, I believe, did, is I just went for the things that weren't covered in my budget and presented them to you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions on them. We call the technology back room the data center, and that's really the heart of our network and the heart of our schools and where everything really starts. So I've got a couple of requests on there. We have about $50,000 worth of Cisco equipment on there. The warranty cost for their warranty replacement is about 10% of the actual cost of the equipment, so it comes out to about $5,000 a year for that. We have an outdated students file server where they store a lot of their data. That is primarily used by the high school, as the lower grades are now on Google Docs, but for the CAD programs and the computer-aided printing that we have, those are really big files that we can't store in Google, so they have to be stored here on site. With the VMware, what we want to do is our current investment in the virtual servers that we have, we want to leverage that more so we can make more virtual servers out of the physical servers. So as servers get old and we start to phase them out, we can move them into the virtual environment. If you turn the page, the Macomber School has always been interesting here. The Macomber School is really always run off of the high school. As far as their wireless goes, we leverage the wireless infrastructure from the high school and through Charter's network and some networking stuff that I've set up. But now with the Macomber getting more iPads and more interactive technology, as well as the high school having more interactive technology, we really need to separate them out and have the Macomber fully on its own. As you guys may be aware or not aware, Windows XP is now going out of support from Microsoft. So a lot of the websites that they're using at the Macomber School and stuff will no longer work with Windows XP. Our thought was to get rid of the PCs altogether at the Macomber, and based upon a recommendation from Mr. Purdy, is to purchase 35 iPads because the kids from age 6 months and 2 years old, they can use an iPad better than me. You know, you give them an iPad, it's interactive, it's designed for them. There's a lot of great applications on there for the kids, and we felt it would be a better use. I want to increase the wireless coverage to cover the gym and a couple other spots at the Macomber School, so that way the gym can be interactive, and if they want to take a group of kids into the gym or something and use the iPads in there and do a big group activity, they would have that ability. And I also put in there that I'd like to purchase 3 smart boards for the Mac to complete the rollout for pre-K. Michael Purdy has done a lot of work with the interactive whiteboards and classrooms. So in talking with him and the pre-K teachers, we really feel that the technology will be used quite a bit in there to help the kids learn and stuff. If you turn the page to the elementary school, a lot of money over the past couple of years has been spent at the elementary school. As you could see from my presentation, we really didn't have a lot of technology there. We have a really modern elementary school. What we'd like to do is invest some money in the library. With the computer lab going away, there has been more demands placed on the library, and those of you that have been there, and I should have had the CAD group at the high school do a little model of the library to show you what we are proposing, but basically there's a circle table in the middle with a U-shaped like this, and it doesn't really provide for a good environment for teaching and learning. That is actually being used more like a computer lab, so we want to break that up and put some technology in the library so that anyone can go in there and use it like a true computer lab classroom. And again, we want to add additional wireless coverage to the building. That's more, we have wireless coverage in the whole building, but as we add more wireless devices, we also need to increase our capacity. The current wireless access points that are on the market typically only support 15 to 20 devices per access point. So that's why we need to have more and more. It's actually in all the seminars that I've been to, and when we went to a seminar in Foxborough, Dr. Dargan and myself, it's really getting to the point where you need to have an access point in every classroom to support the technology that is in the classrooms. And that's pretty much it for the West. The middle school, and I want to state this clearly, every piece of technology we have in the middle school, if the school committee decides and votes to close that building at some point, and I'm not saying that you guys are going to do that, we all don't know what the history of that building is, or if there's a room all of a sudden that has high PCBs, the technology we have in those rooms can be used in other areas in the district and divided out. The lab A at the middle school back in 2008 was the first computer lab that I put in here. That's how old the equipment in there is. So what we want to do with that is we want to replace that with, we want to replace the 31 PCs in there with a thin client solution, which this is what it is. You buy the box, and then our back-end virtual servers run the applications, and that gives us the ability to lock down the PCs and for the PARC assessment testing, and it also gives us the ability to change the lab. So if they want to do a training in there for the West, we can load up their applications and have it up and running in that lab without replacing hardware. That little device there, you just hook up a monitor, keyboard, and internet connection to it, and we're up and running.
I built one of these this morning.
That's where we got it from. We want our Lab B currently at the middle school has 24 laptops in it that are running Windows XP that are were purchased in 2009. We want to get another, in talking with Carolyn Ponce there and the staff, we want to get another Google Chromebook cart there, so that way they could either use it in Lab B or again, our vision is we're thinking what happens if a classroom tests high and then they have to move that to Lab B, then we have a portable lab that can be rolled out throughout the building. We have 10 netbooks that are used for children on IEPs there that we'd like to replace. They're running Windows XP. We'd like to replace them with Google Chromebook to meet the requirements of the IEPs. We have 30 netbooks there. We'd like to replace that with a Chrome card as well, and I'd like to add 6 access points there to increase the wireless coverage. The nice part about the Google Chromebooks is they come in at about $249. So, you know, it's basically a 2-for-1 price. The high school. We'd like to, at the high school, looking at the high school, the lab 328 and 309 upstairs that was put in around 2010. We'd like to replace those with thin clients. That way we'll have the ability to, again, have multi-purpose labs so they can be used for education as well as professional development, as well as anything. We want to keep the digital photo and CAD labs the way they are, but we want to get the thin client licensing so they can run the thin client software on those PCs. So if we have to use those labs for PARC assessment testing or we want to use them for a training other than digital photo and CAD, we can, and leverage that infrastructure. In the media center, we want to replace the 30 IBM Lenovo laptops, which were purchased in 2009. We want to buy another Google Chrome cart. The Google Chrome carts here have been a big hit. The teachers they're constantly out of the library being used in the classroom, which is great. Those 5 PCs over there that are all home-built PCs that we built back in 2009, we want to replace them with either thin clients or Google Chrome boxes. And the Toshiba laptops that are now out of warranty, I have that as a priority 3. We can realistically get another year out of them, but if money is available, it's kind of like a wish list thing. We'd like to get another Google Chrome card as well. All that technology will be used for POC assessment testing. And then I did put on here just as a placeholder, because nobody knows exactly what guidance is doing yet. There's been a lot of discussion about it, but we're going to need some funding to, if guidance does move to the old broadcasting studio, because when the high school was wired back in 2006, they did not really account for a large number of electronic devices in that section of the building that we have today, so we would have to beef up the wiring in the building. And last but not least, in SPED, we have about 12 Windows XP laptops that we would like to replace with Google Chromebooks. And the iPads have really been a great success for special education, especially for some of the students in the different spectrums that we support here and stuff. So we would like to get an additional 20 iPads for SPED to help continue the great work that's being done there.
Question that might actually be directed more towards you. The iPads and such in the lower grades, with the new park stuff coming through, I know there's question as to who will have to be doing computer typing, et cetera, and I know I've heard a little bit of chatter that as the little ones, 6 months old, 7 months old, 8 months, I mean, I know my nephew at 9 months old can do things on the iPad. Are we concerned about these kids doing these touch screens constantly, and are we seeing a difficulty in them switching over to then using, say, a mouse on a Chromebook and or the keyboard, touching the screen all the time and nothing happens? Is that something that we are addressing? Do we have both modes for them to practice on, or, you know what I mean?
Yes, and yes, we do. We have both desktops in many of our classrooms, so that the kids do have the opportunity using an external keyboard as well as a mouse. But it's interesting that you should say that, because when we did roll out Achieve 3000 last year in the 3rd and 4th grade, one of the features that we had to teach the kids was specifically how to use an external mouse, because they were so used to, even on a laptop, using the built-in mouse too as well. So those are all part of, instead of teaching, you know, those skills as a separate subject now, those are all incorporated. You know, like picking up a pencil, this is how you use a pencil, etc. But we are trying to provide, even in the kindergarten, there are computers as well as iPads in those classrooms.
So in upgrading our technology, we're not removing, say, the mouse, so that they're still getting exposed to that at the younger grades. Same thing with the keyboards, and having to learn how to use those skills as well as the touchscreen skills.
Correct.
And actually, at the kindergarten, at the Macomber Primary and the elementary school, the teachers, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, asked us for all our old keyboards, all the ones with the big fat AT connectors, because they actually take them out and use them with the kids. So, which I thought was a great idea, and it's a great use of, rather than them going to a recycling place or something.
I have a couple of questions. You put capital versus unfunded. When you say capital, do you mean a warrant on?
I just meant as far as, and just forgive me, I'm doing, when I did this time around this year, this was my first time doing this around at this level. And in my other hat on the school committee in Freetown Lakeville, we like things that are physical hardware to be listed as capital versus
Recurring costs?
Yeah, versus unfunded recurring costs.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to be clear.
If you want me to present it different way in the future,
No. I
I'd be
just
more than
wanted to be
happy
clear what you meant by capital.
Okay.
Because we don't have a capital account.
No.
So I just wanted to be clear about that. The second thing, for transparency purposes, I do want to point out that Prior to Beth Lewis leaving, we had 3 people in our technology department that were costing us, I don't know what one of them makes, but 130 minus the one person who's still here. We now have 4 people in our technology department, and that's costing us approximately $50,000 more.
Mike?
Thank you for the presentation. I'm going to repeat what I said last year. Don't overspend for park. Okay, there is a pencil paper option. I think our early grades should be using paper and pencil. I don't see this as the time to make major investment for a test that has not been proven. The Commissioner and the Secretary of Education have made it very clear recently, responding to concerns of districts like ours, that it's not an absolute that park will be in place. So I just want to be cautious on that. But secondly, a recent meeting I attended with the Secretary of Education, Matt Malone, indicated the Commonwealth is considering special bonding. So you've put the note on items that would qualify for capital items, and I'm anxious to hear if there's actually something happens where the state makes a capital bonding available for technology, specifically for testing. So again, my 2 points. One is there is paper and pencil, I think, for the earlier grades, because I share some of the concerns that my colleague spoke of, that as the student is learning, as we create a new item for them to learn, and it's called the QWERTY keyboard, right after they've learned the A through Z's, is that affecting their capacity? I think it's important that the middle school has all this technology, as well as the high school, and I'm happy to see that that's what we're planning for. But I'm a little concerned about reacting to this park testing too much from a financial standpoint, but the good news is there may be some support there through the Department of Education.
And if I may, through the chair, and I couldn't agree more, because everything that we've proposed in here and we've looked at has been, so, okay, this can be used for the park, but what are the other benefits that the district's going to get for it? We have a small amount of money in the budget total, so we want to spend every dollar as wisely as we can, and if we can make these labs multi-purpose labs, so that way they can be used for more than one purpose, in addition to the park assessment, that's why we're putting them on there. One of the things that we're seeing is, especially in the computer labs upstairs with an aging building, it wasn't a major incident, but we did have a power strip burn up upstairs in one of the computer labs and damage a printer. Thankfully, the printer was under warranty, and Core Business Technologies did cover it under warranty. But had that happened overnight, we could have had a lot more serious problem. We have a lot of equipment that uses a lot of electricity. If we go to the thin client model, we use a lot less electricity. It's to the point now in all the buildings where before we add any additional technology, Mike Duat and I have to sit down and calculate whether or not the load on the electric in the building can handle it. So, which I would say in some ways is a bad thing, but in some ways is a good thing, because it just shows the community and the public that we've really done what we've said we were going to do. We've put education in the technologies. We're giving our kids a great education.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Melissa, go ahead.
Just a quick question. You mentioned that the Microsoft, how that's the XP is going out. Have you looked into Microsoft? And I know they have a number of grant programs in regards to education and software. I know they have it at the college level where they provide for different labs. I don't know if they do that for K through 12, but is that something that you've looked at or can look into?
We are in the process of looking through a couple of different companies, different avenues for additional funding as well. One of the issues that we're having with Microsoft is the fact that the Windows 8 platform, we've rolled that out on the smartboard computers at the Macomber school, and it works great if you have a touchscreen computer, but if you don't, I'm running it on my desktop here as well as Ed Newcomer, and I've been working in the computer industry since 1989, and I'm having a heck of a time navigating around it, and I consider myself an advanced user. It is I don't know what they were thinking, but their user interface is not very friendly. And we're just afraid here that if we roll it out, the teachers and the learning curve is going to be so great that, you know, I don't know what else I can say. But-
Thank you.
And the cost from, of Microsoft's products and to keep them up is astronomical. That's why we're moving more towards Google and Google Docs.
Well, like I said, I know that they have a program at the university level where they give that for free. So there isn't a cost associated with it. I just don't know if they do that at the K through 12 level. And I can check and see, and if
Okay,
I find
that would be
something, I
great.
can send it. But I just
right.
was wondering if that was an option.
I know in the past when we've looked to Microsoft, we do get a discount on their software, educational discount for K to 12, but the discount has still been, yeah,
Thank you.
it's still been pretty expensive.
Quick comment. I know they've also come out with a new Windows 8 to address some of those problems in the first, so I don't know, I haven't tried the new version.
Ed and
The
I,
old version I don't
Ed and I
even
both
use.
downloaded that right away the day it came
Oh,
out,
is that right? Not much better.
because we were all excited. We thought it was going to be just like Windows 7, and
Yeah.
no, we were pleasantly disappointed.
No.
Just on a side note, some of us up here have some very tech-savvy. Mine happens to be a third grader. And last night when it was time to do the Achieve, you know, Mommy was on the PC, and little guy had to go find the laptop. Password wasn't working. Daddy, I need your help. No, you asked Mommy, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, it was just amazing to watch him figure this out, gets it going. Mommy tells Mo to change it, goes on the website, and he's typing away. He's not, he's using 3-4 fingers, whatever. But it was just so amazing just to watch him do it, and he gets on it, and then I'm hearing the little thing going off. As he's answering the questions, the little bing goes off, and next thing you know, I hear the laptop close. I'm like, "You done?" He says, "Yeah, I'm all done." And, it was just effortlessly, I mean, I think the whole typing thing, I guess, at that age, I mean, they'll just pick it up as they need to, but I don't know. I mean, it's sad, but I go to my 8 8-year-old now for tech support. So I don't know. They're definitely learning, Bob, and I mean, the technology is there. They're using it, and I mean, you can see it. I can see it. So thank you.
Just quickly about the phone system. Prior thought was that we weren't going to move any of the old phone lines over. We've decided that there is way too much phone calls that come into the district that we are going to move the old phone lines over. There'll be a recording on there. We recorded it today, and then it's going to forward them to the new phone line. So we're going to do that for about 30 days, and then we're going to cancel all the phone lines once all the schools are on the new phone system. So, and like I said, it's been a great project with the town. Keith Novo has been a big help with us with this project, and it's been
Bob,
really
you
good.
mentioned to me earlier that Verizon wanted to charge us a fee.
Correct.
A monthly fee just to keep the phone numbers or something.
Yeah, that's what I was told by Beth Lewis prior to her departure, that there was going to be a monthly reoccurring fee on the Verizon lines to keep them. And as I alluded to you earlier, most of the phone lines coming into the buildings are, well, at the high school, the phone lines coming into the buildings were put in 1954. So, and we have quite a few service calls, especially when it rains here in Westport. A lot of times you can't even get through to the middle school. You're lucky if you can get through to the high school. And at the Macumber School, when it rains, it's horrendous.
It pours.
Yeah, so, and we want parents to be able to call, and we want the nurses to be able to call 911 and call out, when there's a problem, so. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Good job.
Great presentation.
Thank you. You guys are a lot easier than the school committee in Freetown Lake.
No, we're not spending any money yet.
Thank you all.
Okay. All right, next on the informational agenda, school committee roles and ethics. So, one of the members asked that this be put on the agenda, and I think more as a reminder to all of us to, to actually read the policy and remind ourselves of why we're here and
You hadn't read it, Tony?
Oh, I've read it. But, so, I don't know. We should all regularly review this stuff and anyway, so that's it.
Sure, thank you, Tony. There were some things, as I reread the policy, that I wanted to just kind of mention. One of them was on the second page where it talks about public relations. It says the committee is responsible for providing adequate and direct means for keeping the local citizenry, thank you, informed about the schools and for keeping itself and the staff informed. Is this, and I know that Dr. Doggin does public relations as well, but just kind of throwing it out there, maybe to think about how can we do that as a school committee? Or is that, because that's what I'm reading, that's something, I mean, is it letters to the editors? Is it writing, is it calling the, I mean, I don't know, what went into that when that policy was written in regards to the public relations piece? So that's, I don't know if we want to think about and get back to it. And then, I don't know. There was another place where it talked about our goals. Sorry.
I'm sorry, what page?
Oh, I was on
Is that a different page?
What policy, Melissa?
so the first thing that I talked about?
Nope, I got that one.
Okay.
It's at the top corner.
Well, it could actually be number 5, right under the public
But
relations.
which code?
No, which code? At the
BBA.
top.
BBA.
BBA. The committee is responsible for establishing educational goals and policies that will guide the committee, and I think that it would be helpful if we had a set of goals, maybe even looking into the new year about public relations, like what are some things that we want to do, or as a committee. And I know what our job is, it's labeled there, but specific goals, so we can say at the end of the year, okay, were we able to accomplish what we were set out to do, and if not, then why, and how can we do better?
You know, the school committee, I mean, obviously, the superintendent sets goals, the school administrators set goals, the teachers set goals, and, you know, the school committee should set goals. You know, how we do that, obviously, we can discuss that another time, but, you know, I think we definitely should put some of these goals on paper and, you know, and actually try to see them through and work to that end. But they do need to get put on paper. We just can't say, well, you know, you hear me say all the time, you know, what's our goal? My goal is always to get better. But, you know, I think we really need to maybe spend a little time and actually put some goals on paper, put them down, and, you know, and they would be our school committee goals, so. Michael?
Yeah, no, thank you for putting this on. It's certainly polite discussion that we're having. I'd like to point to BBAA that talks a little bit about the respect of privileged communication. I think that beyond the public relations piece, the communication piece is just as important. And as we all know, we've had some privileged communication that individual members chose to represent the school committee. It appeared actions that perhaps weren't in line with the final votes of the school committee. And this is clear and concise in this policy, so I would direct that. This goes back to, you know, a policy which starts with the day we become a member of this body. It speaks to the oath of office we take. It speaks to our commitment to our entire set of policies. So I certainly appreciate you bringing these particular policies forward. I think we all have an obligation to review everything that's in our policy book. If we don't agree with it, we need to address it as the process allows through a subcommittee and bring it back to the full committee. But as I say, it begins with the way we start our meetings, which is outlined in the policy book, and I would like to see, and certainly I will take your suggestion of reviewing these policies as well as all of what we have in our policy book, which is well up to date, and I believe we would do well by abiding by them.
Okay. I would point to VCA and just some of the relationship to the community and some of these other items that are on there. You know, like Mike said, once you're elected to the school committee, you then represent the whole town. You advocate for all the school, for the whole school, and you represent the whole town, not just your constituency. But anyway, a lot of these things are on. You know, they're part of the policy. Just, I think it's in all of our best interest to sit down and just remind ourselves of what our roles and responsibilities are. So, okay. All right. Thank you. So on to the action agenda. Athletic update. Jay. Mr. Pacheco.
Hello. Thanks for having me. In terms of the an update on athletics, obviously we're in the first week of winter sports here at the high school. Boys and girls basketball and cheerleading are all off and running with tryouts that started on Monday. Numbers are good. Turned out to be good for boys. Basketball, cheerleading's a little bit down, and the girls was a struggle and a fight and pulling teeth, but it looks like we will definitely have two teams for the first.
18?
We got up to 18, yep. It's looking like 20. It's a good thing. It's the first time, it should be the first time in 3 years that we'll have a JV girls basketball
Awesome.
team, so it's great. They have a full schedule, just like the varsity team, and start next Friday, first game. So numbers are good. Winter sports are up and running, and they're off. Not much to say about it besides that.
And basketball is practicing every day at school.
Yep. We have three time slots here. They go on a rotating basis between the girls. Two lower levels of boys and the varsity boys. From 2:30 to 4:30, 4:30 to 6:30, and 6:30 to 8:30. They're down there now, and they rotate weekly, so that they all share the same times. It's convenience, and most of them work and everything else. So it works out well. And the cheerleaders practice down in the small gym, and if the large gym is available, then they transition up there too when they can.
I have one thing. I just wanted to sort of, for the committee as well, at parent-teacher conference, I happened to bump into a student who was still on the fence about playing basketball a couple days prior. I know Mr. Pacheco had been on this senior to play because she played as a freshman. And our choice last year to put a cap on our sports for families as well as individual is ultimately the reason why she ended up playing. She has two sisters here at the high school. There's 3 girls. 2 of them play a fall sport. 1 of them plays a winter sport. And so therefore, after that, the other 2 are basically are free for the winter season and also for the spring season. That's the one reason why this one girl decided that she would play. It wasn't going to cost her family another $200 and some odd to play. So I just wanted to make all of us aware that making it easier for families to afford did help the number, at least with that particular one, and potentially for the spring season, because I know that some of them have played softball in the past.
Yep.
So I did want to put that out there.
I wanted a clarification because I had a parent ask me about the cap, and I went back and reread the amounts per school and then the family cap. The question was whether it didn't matter whether you had a kid in the middle school or the high school, the family cap was the family cap. And I told her that that was my understanding, but there was a piece to it that was added, which was 2 sports. And I didn't understand whether that meant the student could only play in 2 sports, that they were limited to that, otherwise they'd have to pay if they played a 3rd sport. I couldn't answer that piece of the question.
The cap for an individual is at 400, so if they play 2, if they play in the fall and winter, then the spring, they do not have to pay for it.
Okay.
So 400 is is the max for an individual student. And then
That's not clear from the policy.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't clear to me
Okay.
when I read it.
Okay.
The family cap was clear, but that 2-sport thing did not register in my brain.
From what I remember our discussion, it was to entice students to potentially play that 3rd sport by making it a little bit more affordable for them.
So maybe if we're a little more explicit the next time those things get printed.
Yeah, thank you for coming to see us tonight. I also had some conversations regarding the participation fee for sports with a family that has multiple athletes, and they were surprised that we had made the adjustment. So I printed out the policy, and it seemed pretty clear to me, but I think each individual family situation, maybe it hasn't all been broadcast or sunk in, so I think the open house that you're planning for parents at the high school, it's an ideal time to share that it's now less expensive to participate in sports at the Westport High School.
Sure.
That was a major initiative. It was responsive to calls from many members of the community that just couldn't carry the burden of transportation costs and athletic fees if they had multiple members. So my understanding is that in the family I spoke to, it was high school athletes in the family, I think a couple, but certainly the is it a $600 family cap?
Yes.
Comes into play when you have 2 students, so that's ideal. A long-range item that policy will become more evident if in fact we start looking at shifting students to different buildings, i.e. if the 8th grade or 7th and 8th grade was to come up and become part of a junior-senior campus, and 8th graders were playing on varsity sports and things, how that would be configured. We haven't looked at that, so it's a little early for you to be concerned with, but I think that's an important piece that we'll be looking at as we have shifts in enrollment, and if our SOIs get approved, it may be forthcoming. So I'm excited to hear that we've got 2 basketball teams. I know that was a concern
It was.
a short few weeks ago. So
It was huge, and it allows us to obviously keep another coach, which we've had too, which we wouldn't have been able to. And she's been a tremendous asset to the program, and the kids really like her and like to have the 2 coaches to be able to go to. And with only 1 team and 1 coach, sometimes it gets a little frustrating on both ends when you only have that 1 person to go to sometimes. So, and obviously it helps the program in the long run in terms of developing the talent and being able to, have that lower level where they can, learn the basics and move the advanced kids up to the varsity level. So it's going to be great in the long run. Hopefully it stays, and now is going to be a year-to-year thing.
well, no pressure, but we'll be watching the record this season. We're not looking at the long term. We're looking at this season's record.
Okay.
So good luck.
Thank you.
My understanding as to why Jason was actually coming here today was for some discussion on the possibilities of 8th grade waivers and some explanation on why you're looking for them. I'd be curious to hear some of that, because that's actually what's even on the agenda.
In terms of 8th grade waivers, you're allowed to do them, the state, the MIA allows you to do them on a season-by-season, year-by-year basis. In certain sports that we have struggled in to get numbers and to have at least 2 levels, like we were struggling with the girls' basketball, I think it's a great idea to look into and to possibly have that option in the future. But there's always, there's positives and negatives to everything. And certainly, change is not always received very well sometimes. But it's there for, the MIA puts it in place to help individual school systems that struggle with numbers solely. And in the sports, especially a sport like basketball, where we've already gone down the avenue of co-ops, and they've worked well, and it's been great here, and the partnership that we've had with Conley has been great. But in a sport like basketball, where basically every school holds their own and has their own team, we don't have that option of a co-op, because Conley has enough numbers and they have their own girls basketball program. So I did look into it a little bit for the winter and was hoping to get it done. But luckily we ended up with enough numbers to have the 2 teams. But you can't do a co-op and an 8th grade waiver. They make you pick one or the other. And where you can't do a co-op in terms of girls basketball because nobody else needs a co-op. Nobody else was in the area was in the same situation as us. That's not an option. And the only option at that time was to recruit within and try to get more girls here to participate, which luckily we did, or to go the 8th grade waiver route. I think there's a ton of positives to it that would help us in that situation, if we're in that situation again.
Okay. Can I just ask you a couple of questions? Because I think there's been some rule changes with the it's MIAA.
Yes.
From 2 years ago when this was presented to us, that the restriction of it being all or nothing is no longer a restriction, that you can do it sport by sport now?
Correct.
It's not every sport across the board. But all of the 8th graders, if you do get the waiver, would have to move up. They couldn't stay down.
Correct. It is sport by sport, season by season, but if approved, it's all or nothing. They don't have the option to stay at the middle school and play there. So they do have to come up to the high school, or just choose not to play, which obviously we wouldn't want either. But that is the case. They see it as, if you allow them to have that option, they look at it as recruiting by the high school.
Right, no, I understand, but I just wanted clarification, because I think it was
Chris Donovan.
right, when this was last presented to me, so that when I was looking at this, I'm saying, what happened? What was the change?
Yeah.
And so they made changes to their rules that now allow us to do it season by season, sport by sport, as opposed to across the board.
Correct.
No, I mean, it's definitely something that we need to sit around a table at some point and with the 2 schools involved and come to a consensus on some of these sports. I think the biggest concern that some of the parents had was the timing of it all. And gee, my daughter this year was the big 8th grader, and it was her year to shine, her year to be a captain, and that's all going to be taken away. And I understood that, but they weren't necessarily against the idea. I think again, more maybe of a timing issue this year. But we could certainly. I think it's something we should discuss prior to next year, and much earlier, to see if it is something that we need to do for the program.
Sure.
To make sure we have the program, we don't want to lose the program. So again, the concern was more a timing issue. I think the parents were willing to try it. Some from were.
I think the biggest part, one of the parts of the timing issue is that it's hard here to get the commitments very, very early. And when we start sign-ups, you get the the kids that are returning, they're obviously the first ones to sign up every time. So that's always usually clear cut. But the ones that are on the fence, even to put their name on a list, to them it's a big deal. And our initial sign-ups are always very low and scary. And the amount of work that we put in, and we have the girls themselves, especially this year with basketball, put in to try to get those extra few that, some of these girls have never played. Some of these girls have played town league only, never played at the middle school. And, to go down there and see them in tryouts, it would have benefited them largely if they, had a little bit more experience and started earlier. So I think it's a way to do that. And at the same time, increase our numbers and, hopefully get the kids to sign up a little bit earlier, because that's always the concern, is you need to start the sign up so much earlier. And, these kids are in the middle of, say, soccer and field hockey and everything, and already we're, hey, sign up for basketball. It's like,
I know.
it's tough sometimes to get the commitment out of them and get them to even put their name on a piece of paper.
Do you ever or does the middle school ever not accept someone on the basketball team?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, because I would think that, like you're saying, if they're doing basketball in the middle school,
Mhm.
then it's going to be an easier transition in the high school. So how can we, or can we, somehow increase those numbers at the middle school, for one? And then two, how can we start to really encourage our students across all of our sports to get involved? Because the benefits of physical activity is so important to education and how they learn. It benefits them in the classroom so much. I mean, there's so many different research papers out there that I wish we could, which we can't, but I wish we could make it mandatory because it's so beneficial health-wise, education-wise. So how can we do that? I don't
Well,
expect
just
an
the
answer right now.
yeah, just the with something like this, if something like this were to happen, it obviously increases our numbers here and makes more spots available. Not necessarily spots available at the middle school, but the younger kids have a better chance of making the team, where the numbers are going to increase as a whole within the whole district. For example, last year we had 9 girls here in our girls basketball program, and we only had 1 varsity team. And at the middle school they had 17 girls, so there were 26 girls total. Just last year alone, if of those kids that tried out at the middle school, say 10 of them were 8th graders, if we move those 8th graders automatically up here, they cannot be cut. They automatically make the team and form or help to form our JV team. Our numbers now go from 9 to 19 last year, and they still have 17 at the middle school. So as a program or as a district, we go from the 9 and 17, the 26 girls, up to 37, close to 40. So it's something that definitely would help me increase the numbers, and obviously they only get better with more experience that they have on the court. But as Tony said, it's tough. The transition year, or the year that this ever happens, is always going to be the tough one, because it's change, and every year, no matter what class it is, what year it happens, those kids are going to be 7th graders that are now 8th graders that are looking forward to their 8th grade year, and they're going to be the ones that it really affects, and they have to come up here.
If those 8th graders would have moved up,
Mhm.
would all of the JV players still be there? Like, would you still had room for both?
Yes, we would have had larger teams on both levels. One of the rules that is in effect is if an 8th grader does move up, they cannot be cut. So as long as they turn in the paperwork, as long as they want to be on the team, they're on the team automatically. You can't cut an 8th grade girl after you, or an 8th grade, anybody in any sport, you can't cut an 8th grader after the waiver is put in place. Because again, it just leads to recruiting. Basically you want the good kids, you don't want the bad kids. So once the waiver is passed, you take them all. And there is room. Instead of having, if we're at 20, basically we're looking at 10 and 10, we can go up to 14 and 14, or, whatever it may be. At the same time, our numbers end up looking good right now because of that last recruiting push that we had to get girls to play. But most of those girls are really playing for the sole purpose of saving another team. and realizing that some of their friends weren't going to have a basketball team to play for if they didn't come out and do it. And we saw the same thing in field hockey in the fall when we were, started tryouts, and it was like 6 girls, 7 girls, if we were lucky. And then once word goes around school, hey, junior girl that's going to be on the JV team isn't going to be able to play this year, or isn't going to have a team to play for, or is just going to sit on the bench on a varsity team. We need more girls. Then, some of their closer friends just came out, and thank God, it made it work, and it was a great success and a great season. But luckily, some of the girls, just came out and did it, and sucked it up, and they paid the user fee. And at the same time, with the cap being in place now, it'll help them in the long run, because most of them are athletes of another season. So they'll end up playing in the spring, most likely.
My other question is, if you do the shift in a sport that right now doesn't exist here, to try and create it because you want to bring them in from Connolly or from wherever, what happens if you can't build the team? Do you lose out on the co-op? Girls soccer.
Okay.
They go to a different school.
Sure.
If you brought the 8th grade girls, the soccer girls, up
Yep.
to the high school, you'd potentially be able to form a team.
Okay.
What if you didn't have the numbers, is my question. What happens then? No one gets to play?
So you get the
Those
waiver,
eight-
but you don't have the numbers.
Well, if they granted us an 8th grade waiver to do that, and we didn't end up with enough kids on the team, then they could still go back down to the middle school to play.
And the other girls could go to the co-op?
The
The
girls
high
from
school
here?
girls.
Yes.
The high school
Yes.
girls.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, because that would be a concern.
Mhm.
And now both groups of students have lost out because of this waiver.
Yeah.
Because, I know there's not a girls' soccer team up here, but
Right.
if you brought some of the 8th graders up here, you might be able to form a team.
Sure.
My daughter happens to play soccer.
Okay, yeah. You can't have a co-op and an 8th grade in the same season on the same team.
Okay.
You gotta go one way or the other.
I just
but
wanted
you can manage-
clarification
yeah,
on that.
Yeah, again, it's all a timing thing, you gotta start really early.
Start planning now. She's an 8th grader next year.
All right.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, well, we are discussing some of the various policies of MIAA. I had a couple of thoughts and questions, not that they need to be answered today, but rule number 24 related to captain's practices. It's interesting that the town of Sharon decided not to allow captain's practices for liability reasons, I guess. Captain's practices being that the coaches can't get involved because it's off-season,
Right.
and so the teams are potentially unsupervised other than through themselves, and Sharon certainly is a community that's not as lean funded as we may be, so I don't think it was financial. So I just wonder how we do approach the off-season participation, and in particular, the off-season participation on our school grounds, and if there is liability or if we have insurance in place for that. And then secondly, regarding some of our tremendous facilities throughout the Westport community schools, I know that you could almost put a traffic light over at the middle school come basketball season. Recently in the news, I heard of a basketball league for youth that found themselves no longer able to use a particular facility. They apparently found a place that they can use. Do we have some space within the high school gymnasium that could be used through some of the other recreational groups in town? Has that been explored, or is it in fact a policy that we don't allow the high school gym to be used by outside groups through our student fee, our school facilities fee?
We do. The tough part is the winter. In the winter, there really is, as I said, we have practices from right after school until 8:30 at night every day in the winter, unless there's games, and if there's games, it's even later.
Okay.
And they practice on Saturdays as well, and sometimes Sundays. So in the winter, there really is no time here at the high school where the gym is open. Triple headers for boys basketball games with all 3 levels, double headers now with 2 girls teams, and when the girls play, if the boys, all 3 levels of the boys aren't playing, then they're practicing as well At the high school in the winter, there really is no gym time. In the fall, volleyball is the only team that primarily uses the gym, so there is time then. And in the spring, as long as the weather's fine, everybody's outside. So there's time in the spring as well, but then when there's inclement weather, they do move indoors. So it's kind of, it would get tricky in terms of bad weather if somebody already was scheduled. Now we're putting our own teams out because somebody else already has the gym reserved. Now our own teams are either practicing out in the rain or they have to cancel that day. So it does get a little tricky.
All right.
Great.
All right,
Thank you.
Go ahead, Michelle, quickly, and then.
I'll piggyback off that too and just say the winter guard, when they have a winter guard, has almost an impossible time getting even into the gym themselves to practice, and they end up at the Macumber School because there's just no gym space. But just a few comments, and I have a question. Sort of what you said, I have a real issue with kids being cut at the middle school. I'm concerned about how that makes them feel when they're cut down there, and what our purpose of our programs are down there. To me, the purpose of our programs is to build their skills so that when they get to the high school that they go to, they are then able to play on a team no matter what school that may be here or some of the others that they go to. And by cutting students, I feel we're losing out on potential students that might be coming here that may never try out again. Once they're cut, that might do it and they don't ever come back. Some of our students don't have the opportunities to do town leagues because their parents may work. They may not have the money because those do cost money. And we have waivers here. So if a student can't afford a sport, we have a waiver. They don't have to get transportation to the sport because they're already at school. They just have to get the transportation home after the end of the day. So not all of our kids in our schools have the opportunity to do these town leagues, as wonderful as they are. And, so we do have those kids. And I have concerns, and I know some parents had concerns about the 8th graders playing up here with bigger, stronger kids. I also have concerns about our true JV students, our brand new students coming out for, say, a basketball team or whatever team it may be, and now having to play on a varsity level team that they are in no way, shape, or form ready for. That to me is far more concerning than having our 8th graders play with our junior varsity teams, because they are pretty equivalent in size. I would be a little more concerned about 7th graders, be very honest, because a lot of them haven't hit those growth spurts or whatever. But our 8th graders, I'm a little more willing to take a look at. My other question for you, I have two that are sort of together. How many schools are doing this? Is this sort of just, are there a lot of schools that are doing this right now? And also, thinking forward and looking back, we barely had a softball team last year. And I think they actually played short a few games or close to it. What are you thinking for softball this year? Are you going to be able to pull your magic? Because let me tell you, I saw you a couple times in here begging girls to come. That's harder to field because now you're looking at 25 to 30 girls to field 2 softball teams versus the 5 on the courts for basketball.
Correct. The first part is, in schools our size, it is becoming a lot more normal to see schools go with 8th grade waivers. And even a lot of the schools that we play against are either 7 through 12 schools, so they automatically have them within their own sports programs. And if not, there's a lot of them that are seeking waivers to get their numbers up within their own school districts. For example, in the Mayflower League that we compete in here in the high school, which is now broken up into 3 separate divisions, we're in we're in Division 3 of the Mayflower League, which is comprised of 6 schools. The other 5 schools all have 8th grade participation across the board, and 4 out of those 5 have 7th and 8th grade participation, and they're all very similar in size to us. West Bridgewater is a 7 through 12 school, Sacred Heart, Holbrook, Avon, which are 4 of the 5 schools that we compete against in the Division 3 of the Mayflower League. They're all 7 through 12 schools. And Bishop Conley now has a LEAP program, which allows 8th graders to attend their school and participate in their sports programs. So it is very common locally and in schools that are similar in size to us. Fairhaven uses 8th grade waivers fairly often, as well as Wareham, Bourne, and Case High School in Swansea locally. And it's done in sports all across the board. Dartmouth, which we used to have a co-op with in ice hockey for boys, went the 8th grade waiver route for ice hockey, which is a heavy contact sport, injury risk, and they now have 8th graders in their program playing ice hockey. Football, obviously, it's common in lacrosse, baseball. It's done in all sports. Girls soccer, girls basketball, girls softball. There's no sport limitations to it. It's done in the contact sports and in the non-contact sports to help schools. And in talking to other ADs that have gone that route, it is about numbers, but it's also about saving your own programs and saving the league games that you're committed to. It's tough as an AD to make a full schedule, a 20-game schedule, say, for both varsity and JV, and then you find out that you don't have a JV program. Now you're calling 10 schools to cancel the 2 games that you have against them, and now those 10 schools, it's not fair to them that they now have 2 less games, and they're going to be either explaining to their kids that now you have 2 less games to play, and they may or may not charge user fees, and at the same time, to try to recover those 2 games is a nightmare that late if you have to call it and cancel. So I think it's becoming the norm in schools our size across the board in all sports, if need be. And again, the second part, softball, it is the next sport that I'm concerned with. It's the next season.
Baseball, you had 2 teams?
We have had 2 baseball teams the last 2 years. The JV team has been a little bit of a struggle to form again. It takes a little bit of effort, late effort, to get them committed. Softball has only been 1 team the last few years, and it's definitely one that has to be visited and possibly could be a sport that I ask for an 8th grade waiver for. We never played short in terms of less than 9 girls, which is the minimum you need for softball last year, but we were on the verge a couple of times where a couple of girls are sick. We're going to an away game with 10 girls, 11 girls sometimes, and it's scary. I think that people don't really realize it until something drastic happens, when a newspaper shows up and has to report that so-and-so school just had to forfeit a high school game because they didn't have enough players. I would certainly hate to see that ever happen in any of our sports. And I also agree with you with the age differences. I think it's a far bigger jump the difference between a 5th grader and an 8th grader is far bigger than an 8th grader playing against a junior in high school. Most of the 8th graders are a little bit more developed and ready to play against junior or 11th grade girls or boys. And sometimes the 5th grade to the 8th grade level is a little bit more of a bigger, I think it's a bigger gap. And sometimes it's part of the reason why we do see a lot of the 5th grade and sometimes 6th graders cut from our sports at the middle school.
All right. 2 seconds.
2 seconds. I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair. My motion is to authorize the athletic director to apply for a waiver for 8th grade girls to participate in high school softball in spring 2014.
I'll second that.
I'd like to open up for discussion.
Go ahead, Michael.
I would look at what's happened just in this past season. Many sports are touch and go. Our softball program has shrunk in size over the past 5 years that I've been involved. Certainly fielding typically 1 varsity team, and I think an opportunity for 8th graders to share the sports experience at the high school level in a non-contact sport, and that's as Michelle brought up softball. I realized that as I had thought this through, granting the athletic director the option gives him enough time to evaluate enrollment, to discuss it with the middle school, and to go forward to do what he does best and manage our athletic program. I've heard enough information that I think it would aid in development of our softball program.
So I think my concern is that it, and I mean no disrespect by this, but that it's easier to say, well, we'll do a waiver versus trying to really engage our students like you did with the basketball this year. Had that waiver been approved, then I don't think, and it's just from my opinion from hearing you, that you would have made, or the effort would have been made to engage the students that we were able to get at the high school. And my fear is if we request that waiver, we won't be encouraging and engaging our students in the high school, and that will be missed. So some of those students will be missed. I would much rather see us really engage our middle school students to get involved. Maybe we have to do an intramural league or something after school. If we have that many numbers, specifically in basketball, then it would seem like we may warrant to have a basketball activity where at least they can be out there playing, learning those skills. And then in regards to softball, while I'm not necessarily 100% opposed to it, I'd really like to see a push to see if we can get more of our students engaged and in softball, because it'll be so beneficial to them, especially if they're going to go to a college, because then they can play sports, maybe get scholarships. So my thoughts, the reason that I'm opposed to it is I really want to see us engage our students more and really try to make that effort. And then if we don't, and then we need to do the waiver, we do the waiver.
I have two questions. Do we have softball in the middle school?
Yes.
Okay. And my second question, are there any other spring sports coming up that you would consider, not just girls, boys as well? So the limitation to girls, I would add a friendly amendment that if there's any boys' sports that you would think would benefit from a waiver, that you would be able to explore those as well?
In the spring, for boys, baseball is always on the edge. Could go one way or the other. Luckily, the last couple of years, we have had success in getting the last few that we've needed to be able to form two teams. But it's certainly not something that I could say clear cut like boys basketball. We always have 50 kids that come out for. This year in the spring, I would say that girls softball is the one sport in the spring that is of the highest importance to make sure that we get.
But Jay, at this point today, do you think you need the waiver for the softball, or you just? Did you come here tonight to ask for this waiver for the girls softball?
I did not.
I didn't think so.
I did not come to ask for a waiver for girls softball because we haven't done anything in terms of signups. I'm still, as of yesterday, I was still getting the last couple of JV girls basketball players to commit, and yesterday was the second day of tryouts. So in the spring, we haven't gotten that far yet.
I don't know who was first, it doesn't really matter.
Michelle.
Well, it's a comment. I know when this issue came up before, there were a lot of public comments, so there were a lot of concerns. I would almost say that if we're going to do this, we wait so that we put it on the agenda, so if people have concerns, they can bring it to us versus just making this decision without hearing from people who are actually going to be involved, such as the students and or their parents.
I agree with you regarding the attempt to try to get as many of our students here to sign up for these. The way I understand Michael's motion is to give you the option, not to say that, yes, you're going to go ahead and do this.
Mm-hmm.
My feeling is that Mrs. Tutelo and the superintendent hired an athletic director to do what he felt was in the best interest of moving our sports forward. My feeling is by giving you at least the option of moving forward, you have that ability to do what you feel is in the best interest for the next group of sports. I know that Mr. Pacheco is very well liked here, and I know that you have some pull with those kids in general, trying to talk them into sports. I actually saw girls begging their friends in the hallway, because I have a 9th grader, and some of them were her friends. And, you know, and I do think that will continue. There is that sort of peer camaraderie going on. But at the same time, I think we need to let the athletic director do his job. And if that gives you the option, that's, I mean, my feeling is that we have to at least let you do what you feel is necessary to move your sports forward.
Again, a few points that have come out of this great discussion. Certainly, one is our students cut from the middle school. I wondered if the softball participation at the middle school is at the point where some students don't get to play.
I believe so.
Right, so there we have some students that want to be on some sports fields and aren't able to. So this helps alleviate that. The concerns that I had learned from parents related to basketball, and I was a hockey player, and I never considered basketball a contact sport, but I'll tell you, I've gone to some of our high school games, and basketball is a contact sport.
Yes.
Softball, it's a great opportunity to get students out and active in the springtime. First-hand experience, not myself, but my daughter was a basketball player at the middle school, and she went on to play at a high school. I just want to remind the athletic director, Mr. Pacheco, and our entire board that we have a set of rules by MIAA. This is our last chance, folks. Let's get it right. December 15th is the deadline for spring sport application for a waiver. Let's give him the option to pursue conversation in the next few days and make his decision, something that we've hired him to.
December
So,
15th is the deadline?
For the spring?
spring,
So our next meeting's not till January.
I'm
James.
sorry, deadline for
Okay.
submission of waiver requests.
I thought it was the 6th for,
Says April, what was it, December 15th
For the
was winter? Doesn't make sense that April 1st.
No. Off the top of my head, I wouldn't know. I'd have to go back and look at the MIA handbook.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was saying here, but
Go ahead, Caroline.
I know that there was some deadlines.
Sure.
Let me correct what I said.
in my opinion, it gives you the ability to canvass, to talk to the middle school. If parents have, at least it's out there, it's not a last-minute thing that just appears on the horizon, so that you can have discourse with parents and students and make the determination what is best for the athletic programs for the schools to move them forward. Because I know that in soccer, they have like 50 kids come out, and she fielded a big team,
Yep.
like 20-something kids. And all that means is some of those kids get less play time because it's such a big team, but all the other kids she cut don't get to play at all.
Exactly.
And my understanding is, I don't think you can do competitive and intramural. I think you have to choose, is that correct?
On the middle school level, I'm not sure, because I really...
That's my memory from the discussion 2 years ago, but again, those rules may have changed.
Yeah.
That you couldn't field both types of
A
teams.
soccer intramural and a soccer.
And we
Right.
also need
That
to
might
keep
be
in mind
kind of
that Jay is the high school athletic director.
That's the thing, I'm not sure on all of the middle school policies, because I only cover the high school.
No, I
right
understand,
now, so-
but this would give you the opportunity to talk to the people at the middle school. So I would be in favor, with, again, a friendly amendment to allow not just girls, but boys, consideration of any boys' sports as well.
Melissa?
If Michael would accept that amendment.
I will, as long as the second,
Yeah,
go through the second.
that's fine.
I just wanted to say that I'm not second guessing or thinking that you're not a good athletic director. That's not it. But when I look at this, I see it as a policy change because we've never done this before. So we're changing our policy in regards, and my understanding is that the school committee is responsible for policy. So that's why that's why I'm concerned about it. It's not that I'm second guessing a decision that to me, it's a policy on how we're going to handle our sports.
I did, before he was going to come here last time, I did take a look at our sports policy, and it actually refers back to the MIAA. It doesn't talk about age restrictions or even schools in our specific sports policies. So I get what you're saying on policy, but at the same time, our policy really kind of kicks back to the MIAA and whatever their policies are.
Jay, the other concern that we heard, or that I
Because
heard,
that too.
with the basketball is you know, when you pulled those 8th graders out of the middle school, suddenly now your middle school is left in a much weaker state. How do you answer that concern?
Again, initially, it will be. But at the same time, because we're now going to be allowing more 5th and 6th graders to play, you know, I think we'll be, within a year or two, we'll be right back where we were. They may be competing against teams that have 8th graders, and now they may not have 8th graders. But again, as an overall sports program in the town of Westport, as in anybody else I speak to, I think the
So,
high school...
Jay, when you mentioned those 4 other schools in our 5 here at the high school, those aren't necessarily the same schools at the middle school level? Is that a whole different set of schools?
Yes, it is. Some of them may be the same, some of them aren't. For instance, I know they play like-
there would be a 5th grader on the whatever team at the middle school who could be potentially playing an 8th grader at
Yes.
at one of their high schools.
Yes, but it's the same now, you know, but there's very few 5th graders
But the
that
5th
actually
graders
make
generally don't
teams.
make it. I get
Right.
that.
But any 5th grader that does make it now is playing against an 8th grader already.
What does our middle school athletic director or think about this? Are they on the same page?
Again, I think they are. Matt Camper down at the middle school is on the same page, and he understands that, you know, overall, we are a program where, you know, we're a school district, we're the school system, and the high school is what's most publicized, and what is, you know, sometimes people admit that, you know, it's your billboard. You know, your athletic program sometimes is your billboard, and it's what people recognize. And in order to make our sports programs better and more competitive, I think it's definitely the way to go. And Matt supports it, although he does realize, like Tony said, that they will be, you know, a little bit weaker, and they might not be able to have the success that they've enjoyed over the last, I don't know how many years, because they've been very successful. But at the same time, I think we're going to enjoy more success up here on the high school level, which is what is recognized by the MIAA, because the MIAA truly doesn't really even exist, doesn't even really recognize middle school athletics, besides the fact that it's there, but they don't oversee middle school athletics. And again, you know, to me personally, in our own program, I think it's about raising banners at the high school and being able to put those championship banners at the high school level. And right now, we're putting them at the middle school level, but we're not getting that many here. And I think it's, you know, a lot
Jen,
of ways to do with numbers.
another concern, and I don't know if I've ever gotten, because I think I get different answers. One of the concerns that came up several times from parents was that my 8th grade daughter, if she ends up playing at the high school, that the MIAA will not allow her to play any other organized team. So, as we know in Westport, most of these girls in town play middle school basketball, they play CYO, and they play the town. So
It's not
obviously
true.
that's a concern. So is
It's not
that
true.
So it is not true.
They allow you to play the other teams, but it is a rule that you must pick the high school team over the town league or CYO team on a given day. If you have high school practice and you have CYO practice, you have to go to high school practice.
And there are conflicts today.
If you
so-
do go to a CYO practice over a high school practice, then...
So you are allowed to play a CYO team or
You're allowed to play them
town
the same
league.
season, yes.
But obviously, if you have a high school game that day, you need your priority needs to be, which I imagine it would be with most kids.
Exactly.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
Motion passes. Okay, Jay, thank you.
We just have one more request this evening, and this will be for information only, but we will put the action on the next agenda. But while we have Jason here, there's an opportunity for him to talk about a donation. So in case you have any questions, I'd like him to at least be able to put out the opportunity for what this donation will be forthcoming.
In collaborating with our athletic boosters here at the high school, they would like to make a large donation in terms of a brand-new PA system for our gym here at the high school. A lot of thought and everything has gone into it.
Sure, thank you.
currently here at the high school, our PA system in the gym is what is believed to be the original PA system of the gym. So most likely, 50-plus years old or in that neighborhood. The boosters are willing to purchase a PA system in terms of about $4,000 to donate to the school, to be installed in our own gym here at the high school. I think it's a great thing for us. The athletes recognize, and also it's a public thing as well. It is outdated, it is old, the speakers crackle a little bit, and sometimes it's tough to hear over the regular noise of an everyday crowd for a basketball game, no matter the size of the crowd. I think it's something that will tremendously benefit our program, and it's to be used for not just sports or basketball, but anything that we could possibly use it for. The boosters would be paying for not only the everything physical in terms of the PA system, but the installation as well.
There's no way, when would this be done? It's pending on our approval.
Correct.
There's no way that we can get this added to the action agenda? Did we know, like right now, we didn't know that this was coming, right?
Oh, we could do this.
No,
You
we
could,
can't. Technically, we can. It's not on the agenda. We should have a meeting on the 18th. Then we could do it.
I would ask the chairman, were you aware of this program when you put the agenda together?
No.
So this is unexpected.
No business.
So it's unexpected, so
Yeah.
we can add this,
Yeah.
and it's a donation.
correct.
And it's a donation.
It's up to, the chair to
No, absolutely,
determine.
yes. We could, if we need a motion, I
Make
would
a-
entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept the donation from the,
Do we have to add this to the agenda first? Do we have to motion to add to the agenda? Yeah.
So,
make a motion to add this to the agenda.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm not opposed, I'll abstain because I don't think this is appropriate. I think we should just meet on the 18th and do it the right way. We just reviewed the ethics and our responsibilities and all that other stuff. And
That's no
it's
business.
nothing against the donation, I would vote for it in a minute. It's just, there's a process, and so I
motion-
abstain.
Motion to accept,
Motion to accept donation.
Yeah.
second?
Oh,
So-
yeah.
She made,
Oh, Michael did it. Michael just
Second.
seconded, sorry.
any
Confused
further
me.
discussion?
I just would hope that our technology director or staff will be able to, the team, exactly, will be able to look through this and make sure that it's what they would do as well.
I collaborated with Bob, who was here earlier, in the technology department, as well as Mike Duar
Oh,
on
you
this as well.
They have looked at it already.
They've seen it.
Just
when-
so they're part of the
Oh, yeah, yeah.
project. Great.
Everybody that needs to know about it needs to know about it.
Accept us.
And the music department, is this going to enable us to have a,
What, are you going to sing?
I
Like sing at the first game.
you never know.
National anthem? That's a tough one.
All right, all in
I
favor?
think it's a great thing.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Can I ask one, just for informational purposes? I know that the athletic boosters have been instrumental in getting the kids other things. What have there have been things this year that they have also purchased, correct?
They purchased this portable scoreboard for any outdoor sports that we have here that can travel from one field to another. It was we hope to get it in time to use for our fall sports, outdoor fall sports, soccer and field hockey, but there was a problem when it was shipped to us. It was not working, so we had to send it back. And now we do have it. It is in my office and works perfectly fine, but we don't have anything now to use it for until the spring. But we do have a portable scoreboard now for our outdoor sports. And the kids are pretty excited just walking by the office and seeing it when I was testing it and it was all lit up.
We could have brought it in here just to keep this agenda going.
I could.
Melissa, 2 seconds.
Just very quickly,
2.
I wasn't sure if you were going to mention under the athletic update, the volleyball game, but Melinda mentioned it a little. We had an alumni, and then they also had a staff volleyball game. So some staff got together, and Jason was included, and plays really great volleyball. So it It was a great night, so I just wanted to say.
My daughter was
that.
there. They pulled her
Yes.
up from the middle school.
I seen
Yeah.
her.
They did
Yeah,
try to
well,
get me to come, but I had to go pick my daughter up in Boston, so I wasn't able to, but
I
So
think
I
she
heard it was
played with the
great.
high school kids.
Well, the middle
and she's
school
in
played
7th
against
grade.
the high school.
Right, and she's in 7th grade, so.
Yeah, it
It
was
was
it was
fun.
a great night.
It was
yeah.
it was a good
I,
night.
I know, thank you to the athletic boosters, because they work very
Absolutely.
hard with very few people, and we all know how that is, so they are adding things to our team, so much appreciated.
All right, and this is the final 2 cents on this.
Go for it.
Just go back to the athletic fees, and Michelle, you mentioned that maybe, someone maybe was able to play because of the caps and
Oh,
stuff.
that's why she did play, because it didn't
Um,
cost her parents anymore.
People watching at home need to realize that our kids, we're charging our kids up to $400 a year to play sports in the public schools. And I'm sure when most of us were in school, you'd sign up and nobody paid for it.
Cost you your sneakers.
Yeah, it was maybe a pair of sneakers. It was never an issue. You never had to come home and ask your parents, "Hey, can I play softball? But by the way, I need $200." This is something new, relatively new, and so people need to realize. So obviously up here we struggle with our finances, and we have rolled back some of the fees, the busing, and people got to realize that if I could make a motion right now to roll back these fees to half, but that money would need to come from somewhere else. And maybe it's a teacher in the classroom, and that obviously we don't want to lose a teacher in the classroom, and so we're left with the lesser of two evils. We're coming into budget time here, budget season, and the schools are putting our list together of budget items, things that we need. And when we ask for more funds to do some of these things, it's those funds, those additional funds, if we get them, that allows the committee to roll back some of these fees, because I would love to just have all these fees go away. But people need to understand that, and especially your parents at home that have kids in the public schools, if you sat down one night and figured out how much you spend and send to the schools above and beyond your taxes to pay for these fees, a little bit more funding to the schools would go such a long way to eliminate or reduce these fees, which in turn may allow more kids to participate, which 30 years ago, God, we'd pay the parents to have their kids participate, and now we charge them. So it's something for people at home to think about, the fees that we charge. And it isn't just for sports, it's many things. So, all right, that's my 2.5 cents. Thank you.
Up to 5.
5 cents, thanks, Mike. All right, Jason, thank you.
Thank you.
Mickey, you want 5 minutes to stretch, or? So next on the agenda, we got action needed for the new fingerprint law. So our legislators, in their great wisdom, have changed the law, and now we have to fingerprint people.
Hello. I was organized over there, now I'm not. Hang on. Okay. So I apologize for the delay in giving you a copy of the PowerPoint. However, I've attached the updated to the FAQ provided on the Department of Criminal Justice Information Services website. And as you can see, 3 days after I notified Karen Augusto of adding this to agenda, they changed the FAQ again. I have been notifying staff of this law. Since I was informed in January, we notified all administration. And then in May, we notified all staff. First, we started with the union presidents, and then we rolled it out district-wide. In the start of this school year, in August, we had all new hires coming in from July 1st sign off on an agreement understanding that this law is coming out. At the time, we weren't sure when it was going to be rolled out. We had been told it was going to roll out in May, then July. Now we've heard from the state that it will definitely be rolled out and active in January. All new hires must have it done within the first 30 to 60 days of when the law rolls out. all current employees who were hired prior to January 1st, 2013 will have until July 1st, 2016 to be fingerprinted. I'm here today because on November 8th, when there was the mass conference, I was fortunate to attend with Karen Augusto, the superintendent secretary and school committee secretary, a joint conference held for all school secretaries and administrative assistants. That day, Lucy Wall came, and she is the attorney for the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. She provided the information in the packet in regards to a soft launch, which is coming out, actually came out yesterday, and a hard launch, which is effective in January. We did volunteer to participate in the soft launch, being a small district. However, they were looking for larger sizes like Brockton to roll it out. That being said, it will definitely start in January for all of our new hires coming in. There are several things that you are required to vote on today, and I've sought advice from Michael Gilbert, Sam Cheeseman, and neighboring districts on how they're handling these laws as well. So when I present them to you, not only have I looked locally to neighboring districts, but also statewide. The Mask Sec group, which is relative to the Mask group, encompasses 78 districts in Massachusetts. So those are the districts that have responded to me. Currently, Massachusetts is the 50th state to require a national background check. Sorry. Fingerprinting must be done by the FBI, and it has to have legislative permission, which is why this fingerprint act has taken so long. Regrettably, the act was proposed, and we had the fortunate ability to model it off of the other 49 states. However, the FBI, who formally agreed to some of the laws, declined them after it was passed. So that's what's been holding everything up. The FBI has now finally approved the act relative to background checks. In addition to the fingerprinting, a lot of the concerns is that the queries won't be done. That's not true. In addition to the fingerprinting, queries must be done. So when you're taking the votes on the action items that I will mention to you, please keep that in mind. All employees, all volunteers, subcontractors, and students from neighboring colleges still will have to be queried. MGL Chapter 71, Section 38 requires all schools to conduct criminal background checks on current and prospective employees and volunteers, including those who regularly provide school-related transportation to students who may have direct and unmonitored contact with children. So when you're thinking about these action agenda items, please keep that standard in mind. It's related to those who have direct and unmonitored contact with children. The responsibility for all of these action items is on the district. The state has passed this down to our level, so we must decide today. In the event we can't decide today, please remember that the fingerprinting will still have to be done once it's rolled out in January. And if you don't vote today, for whatever reason, you don't vote prior to January, we'll have to make it mandatory for people who don't vote on either as well.
That's a lot of words.
Sorry. The fingerprinting procedure, so this is just a rough outline of how it's going to happen. The website actually hasn't rolled out yet. So real quick, people will log online. They'll make their appointment with a state-appointed vendor. These vendors in the states only handle fingerprinting. They won't do anything else. So just keep that in mind that when people are going to the vendors, they are professionals at this. They are located in 33 other states, and this is all they do. So you're not going to have to go in and register for your license and get fingerprinted. It's not like neighboring states where you'll have to go to the police department. This is it. The fees, which is the most important to most people, $35 for non-Department of Elementary Secondary Education license holders, $55 for all DESE license holders, but that also includes anyone with a pending license. So we have several people who have applied for licenses but haven't done anything with them. those people will still have to pay $55. Also, people like myself, I hold multiple DESE licenses. Even though I'm not working under those licenses, I will still be required to pay the $55. So when you're thinking about hardships and waivers, bear in mind that those fees extend to people who aren't necessarily working under those licenses, so the expense is greater. Once they go to register, they have to know the district ID, which will be provided by myself and Human Resources. The good thing is that subcontractors and substitutes have the opportunity to register 10 districts. However, if they miss our district for whatever reason, they didn't think they were going to substitute here previously or provide transportation services to us, they'll have to repay the fee to be re-fingerprinted. So when they sign up, I have to be very vigilant in informing everybody to please add our name to the list, even if you don't think you want to be active in our sub-list this year. Once the appointment's made, they'll have to provide a copy to me so that I can provide it to the state. They take that copy and they go to the site with their driver's license and they're fingerprinted there. Once they're fingerprinted, the fingerprint vendor will submit it to the state police, who will then send it to the FBI. The FBI will then pull the report. They'll redact it for any sealed convictions and juvenile records, so we won't see those. That report that's been redacted will be sent to the Department of Criminal Justice Information Services, and then that report will be released to me. When we pull query reports, it's all done through the DCJIS, so the process will be very similar once everything has been smoothed out. Right now, they refuse to give us a time frame. The soft launch is going to be significantly quicker to have this turnaround. However, for us, they're thinking it could take 3 to 4 months for that reports to come back in, depending on the FBI. However, the biggest thing we have to know is that when the reports come back, they have to be treated like the query reports. However, we also must log a suitability determination, which means every report that comes in, we have to create a separate file to notify the states whether we feel they're suitable to work in our district or not, or volunteer in our district, or sub in our district. On that suitability report, even if they've been a teacher here or a substitute for several years, 10 years, 20 years, something's on their report comes back and we say, we know this person, they're okay to work here. What they did was in the past, and we know that they've overcome it. We still must notify the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and they may make their own independent determination to determine whether they'll pull their license, which is why the $55 fee is higher, because they're monitoring it more now. We can rely on previous employers' determinations and suitability. However, we can't see the report. Mike Gilbert has discouraged us doing that. However, that option is made available if we're waiting for a determination to come back. We can call a neighboring district that we had just hired them from and see if they determine them to be suitable. However, the liability would be on our end. If the individual has a 2-year gap between employment or has moved out of states for 3 months or more, suitability can't be considered and they'll have to be re-fingerprinted. Okay. Some of the dates. The state website will open on December 3rd. We haven't been sent that link yet. It was only rolled out to the soft launch districts, but we should hope to see it by December 16th, which is when the fingerprints are actually starting. Initially, only 7 of the 33 sites for fingerprinting will be open. March 1st, the remaining sites will be open. Sites will initially be open in Beverly, Boston, Bourne, Brockton, Pittsfield, Springfield, and Tewksbury. The remaining sites, they plan to locate next to all RMVs. So the nearest one, I believe, is Fall River, New Bedford. So they're fairly local for our employees. Spring 2014, the website will be fully complete, so we won't be emailed the reports anymore. We'll be able to pull them the same way we pull queries.
Mickey, that list of, those were vendors that would be available for the soft launch?
Yes.
Could you just go over that list again?
Sure.
Yes.
It will be Beverly, Boston, Bourne, Brockton, Pittsfield, Springfield, and Tewksbury. The remaining sites will be next to all RMVs.
So the closest one would be
Currently, it'll be Bourne or Brockton.
Waterbury.
However, I realize that's far away. So long as we have 40 or more people who need to be fingerprinted in our district, there's a free mobile unit that will come. If we don't meet the 40, even if we have 39, they'll go away. It is free. It's provided by the DCGI.
They go
So
away.
39 isn't 40?
That's what Lucy Wall told us. She said you have to have the 40 for them to come. I must pay for it to get here. But that is an option open to us so long as we have 40. Currently, our new hires are not near 40, but once we do roll out before 2016 to our current staff members, we can definitely have that option where the mobile units can come, 2 or 3 times so people don't have to go.
So I'm just trying to wrap my head around this because there's a lot of information. For the soft launch, the new hires are the ones that are going to have to be fingerprinted.
Yes.
They will have to drive to Bourne or Brockton for the soft launch?
Yes. On March 1st, the remaining sites will be open. So right now, they're planning January to
So Fall
February.
River won't be open until March.
So unfortunately,
Wow.
they're expected to go to Brockton or Bourne.
But if we're not part of the soft launch, so what?
We're not, but the hard launch is coming out in January. So we'll still have to,
So they still have
Implement
to
it.
until March when Fall River's open.
correct.
Wow.
And you said how long they had, 90 days?
Who came up with this
30 to
idea?
60 is the way they're planning it right now.
Wow.
Eventually, fingerprints will be available the way Corey reports are done, and I hope that by 2017, I know it's a ways away, pretty soon the Corey reports and fingerprints will be more aligned, so that way we'll only have 1 report to check instead of 2.
Once you do this, it's done?
Yes, once you're fingerprinted, it's a one-time occurrence, unless you move to a new district. So in the event our employees resign here and go to another district, they'll have to pay the fee again.
Okay, that's a reason to
Can I-
stay.
Sure.
Can I ask another, because I'm reading your third one, this PowerPoint, you said that there were some changes?
Yes.
Says all individuals hired after July must be fingerprinted in April 2014. That's not correct anymore?
No, I'm sorry. Like I said, the FAQ did get revised after this was written, so that they will have just 30 to 60 days of when the hard launch rolls out in January. And that's per Lucy Wall. However, just a caveat, we have been waiting since January. We didn't get approved for the soft launch, and I still haven't seen the email for the new link yet. Whether it'll actually happen, I mean, I don't mean to be critical of the state, but whether it'll actually happen in January or February, I don't want to make promises, but we do have to be prepared for it.
Have they said why they're not going to, at least when they say you have to do this, give people within a 15 or 20-minute driving distance instead of, I mean, to me that seems ridiculous.
The reason is when we met with Lucy Wall, we had asked why the dates weren't postponed, and it's because they would have had to pull the act and rewrite it again. Where the FBI had already approved it, and it had taken since before January of them writing it, they felt that it was best to just go with the dates and not revise them. Unfortunately. So, why I'm here today is there are several action items that you'll have to vote on. The first one is currently school volunteers are Corey just like everybody else. School volunteers, for the most part, do not have direct and unmonitored contact with children because they are with teachers. Very rarely are they allowed to take the students to a laboratory or to the library independently, and even when they are, there's usually another staff member allowed. However, because this has to be determined on the district level, you must vote today whether you'd like school volunteers to be fingerprinted as well. Keep in mind that that's a fee of $35 for non-license holders or non-pending license holders, or $55 for those who are license holders or pending license holders.
I'd like to make a motion that we not require volunteers to be fingerprinted.
Second.
Just to open discussion, it's hard enough to get volunteers into the school, never mind having to make them now pay to volunteer, even albeit once, and have to drive somewhere to go and be fingerprinted. And I think the Corey does give a pretty good idea of what kind of a person that you're dealing with. And I know in the past, superintendents call questionable Coreys in and chat with them about why they have specific things on their Coreys and make the determination based on that. And therefore, I mean, I think they're not running classrooms, so I don't know. I think that, yeah.
I noticed that it's the next one on the list, but you have field trip volunteers, because for field trip volunteers,
I'm
they
just
are.
talking about.
Well, this is,
So
we gotta
this
do
is-
each
so that
one at a
they have to
time.
be
We
done
gotta do one at a
separate.
time.
You-
Okay.
I'll amend my motion to say classroom volunteers.
The first one on the list, general school / after-school based volunteers.
All right, so school-based volunteers.
Carolina?
Whoever seconded it, is that all right? Did you second it? Yeah.
Yes, I did second it.
Carolyn, do you have a question?
I'd just like to add, I'm sorry, that I don't think I said this, I'm kind of nervous. The Coreys only see what's happened locally in Massachusetts. So,
That was, I'm sorry, that was going to be my question. This is only Mass anyway, even though it's an FBI screen.
well, the FBI, the federal background, will now see all federal and all pornography charges. So the Corey doesn't see anything that's happened outside of Massachusetts, including pornography charges. They also don't see any felonies that happened outside of Massachusetts. So the fingerprinting will see that. However, from doing the Coreys, we average about 1,500 Coreys for volunteers only in this district. The majority do live in state. Unlike our employees, who it's a 50-50 mix that they live out of state.
1,500 times 35.
Yeah, but that money doesn't come to us.
I know it
No, the
doesn't.
money doesn't.
Somebody's making money.
On the motion.
Yeah,
No, we got a motion and a second.
Yeah, I know.
Discussion.
It is on the motion. I'm about to think about that. Will there be any funding for people? For
For the fees?
for the fees, I'm thinking for our volunteers, because I
That's
wouldn't want them to
under
pay
the
that
hardship
either.
exemptions and waivers that we need to vote on. The state is not offering anything.
Okay, it's just-
In fact, I included an email, and this is just a sample of one person I reached out to. And Mike Gilbert is really instrumental in helping us roll this out. He's the one who got Lucille Wall to our MaskSec conference. And he says, my advice to the school committees has been that this is no difference for employees than their driver's license or their professional license fee. And it is a condition of public employment placed on the job by the state. Thus, there should be no waiver except for true financial hardship as allowed by law. Since the district is not collecting the fee, there is not an opportunity for the district to make a direct payment for the fingerprint process. The district would then incur the cost of any reimbursement processing for any hardship waiver. I've also contacted all of the neighboring districts, as well as districts spread out through Massachusetts. And one of the neighboring districts in Dartmouth, I spoke to two administrators, one in the school business office and one in the superintendent's office, who said, regardless of how they were voting, if someone could not pay the fee, and it was an employee specifically, they not only would have them not be employed, but they would find somebody who would pay the fee and probably work cheaper. And it's a little cold-hearted, but
we're talking
that
about
was-
volunteers
talking about
here.
right, but talking about fees and hardship waivers, none of them were entertaining this
So even
idea.
if there was a hardship waiver, if I'm to understand that, it would be at our cost?
Yes, solely, and for anybody, volunteer or
So we would be
employee.
paying our volunteers
Go ahead,
at
Michael.
that point?
Is there an option to include a provision for volunteers who have unsupervised,
Yes, I just put that as the second, I guess my work, action item. For the field trip volunteers,
that's
both day
different.
and overnight, oftentimes they go to the zoo and they're split into groups. Those people may need to.
My motion was just strictly school-based.
Just general school-based and school volunteers. And it has to be very separate vote. And Has to be separate.
Right, so what my question is do we have a policy that no volunteers are with students unsupervised? Is there any occasion where volunteers are with students unsupervised?
The zoo would be a good example.
No, no,
Field trips.
I mean in school,
In
getting
school.
away from the field trips.
I'm not entirely sure if there's a policy, however, they are protected under the Corey law, but now the Corey law has been revised to include the act relative to background check. So those who were Corey'd were protected by having direct and unmonitored contact, by having the
I've
now
lost
fingerprint-
confidence in the Corey based on the fact that if someone's a criminal in Rhode Island, moves
Right.
to Westport, gets involved in volunteerism, we don't know what his background is unless we enact this new legislation.
1,500 volunteers?
Yeah, that's how many Corys I process each year. Whether we actually have 1,500 in the district working actively, I don't know. However, we have the parent who's occasionally here to do a field trip once a year, and that's their one Cory.
I was just going to kind of follow up with Michael's question. Dr. Doggan, do we have parent volunteers who are unsupervised within our district?
There is the potential that they could be unsupervised in our district. So for instance, they may take a youngster out in the corridor and read with them. They may escort them down the corridor to use a restroom. So there is always that risk that they could be unsupervised with a student. We don't encourage that. Typically, they're not alone, but I don't want to say that would never happen.
Can I withdraw my motion because I'm not sure now after hearing all this stuff.
We don't have to vote tonight, right?
It should be done before January, but if you have another
Tony,
meeting,
I still have
then
a question.
Go ahead.
it doesn't have to.
Who's going to police this as well? So, say for example, and just as somebody who has had an opportunity to volunteer in several schools, I generally don't see parents alone, but I could see how it could happen. Taking a child down to the nurse's office, for example, your kid has a boo-boo or they're upset and the teacher can't leave the classroom and they need somebody to walk them down to the nurse's office. But just say for sake that we did decide to do two different things, school-based being one way and then field trip-based being another one, who's going to police that? Who's going to say, well, you've been fingerprinted, you can go on the field trip, you haven't been fingerprinted, you can't go?
Currently, when I write the Cory list, because I'm the only one who is allowed by the state to manage it, I write, and you might have seen it in some of the schools, depending on how they display the Cory list. You'll see the volunteer's name. You'll see the date they were Cory'd, or the date, right now it says the date they expire, because when I was writing the date of the Cory, people couldn't keep track of the date. So the date it expires, and then there's a column on what they actually do. So it could say, for example, driver. It could say subcontractor, roofer, volunteer, and then many times I have chaperone or field trip. So on that, it would be an approved list that we could do a separate list along with it, where we'd say specifically chaperone, field trip approved, or fingerprint approved. I would have to keep, no matter what, a new spreadsheet like the Cory's, as well as a suitability determination separate sheet too, to say whether they were suitable for anybody fingerprinted. So we would have both of those. When I distribute them securely to all the schools. And it's then up to the building principals to determine whether they're going to put the sheet out. Usually in the lower levels, the Macomber and the elementary have the most volunteers. So that list is easily accessible for people to check to see that they're okay to go on a field trip. The teachers know to be checking it regularly before a field trip, and the school secretaries know to stop someone in the hallway if they haven't been Cory'd. This is put on the district level, which is why I rolled it out first to the principals on what was going to be required and expected, and then the union presidents so that they knew the staff would have to be more vigilant as well. So there are some kind of fences.
I just want to follow up. I have real concerns with balancing the safety of the kids with making our parents still feel welcome. And And I know that in the schools, oftentimes sheets will go home that say the kids are having a particular field, whatever, all are welcome to attend, blah, blah, blah. And then you've now got a chaperone who has 4 kids, and then you've got 3 other parents tagging along because all are welcome to attend. And I see this being, if we decided to say we have to fingerprint everybody, and I'm not saying we should or shouldn't, I'm seeing it be disastrous at, let's say, the zoo, or let's say wherever. You get to the zoo, you now have other parents that are there that maybe haven't been fingerprinted. Who takes care of that? Obviously not the chaperone that's in that group, and is that now the teachers? The teachers certainly can't kick them out of the zoo. So I just don't, I can't see how this can be done.
There's always,
Logistically.
there's always that risk anyway, anytime you take students out to a public place, which is why really orienting volunteers to, not letting the children out of your sight, etc., is really, really important. But, as Mickey said, this is definitely a management nightmare too as well.
Yeah.
And our district isn't the only district. Every district across the Commonwealth is facing it. So I do realize it's a lot of information tonight, and you may want to just take it under advisement. We can put it back on the agenda again on the 18th for votes as well. And maybe by then we'll have some more information on what other districts are doing as well.
I could call neighboring states, just
I'd
Rhode
like to
Island and
speak
New
on the
Hampshire, to
motion
see
if
how
there's
they're
still a
handling it,
motion.
since we are the last state doing
I
this.
pulled the motion off the table. Didn't hear that.
Mickey, how many of the neighboring districts, I know we had spoke earlier, that
Most-
actually, have these subcategories fingerprinted?
Most haven't voted. They are voting this month at their own meetings. The 2 districts that have voted, one is Freetown Lakeville has decided that none of their volunteers will be fingerprinted. The other district was Bridgewater Raynham, and they decided that for field trips, so long as they're not overnight, and for school-based volunteers, don't need to be fingerprinted, but overnight volunteers for like a Washington DC trip or a trip to Europe must be fingerprinted. And then those people are usually paying, fees anyways for their child to go, so it's just, unfortunately, one more fee, but it's something that they're already anticipating a cost.
And the committee always has the ability to, then in the future, mandate a fee or one of these subcategories to go ahead and mandate the fingerprint.
Yes, this is all has to be district level. The state doesn't want to make any decisions for us.
Michael, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to remind us as we're looking at this very emotional issue, and I think well said in terms of we're balancing the ability to welcome volunteers into our hallways versus the protection of our student body. We don't have to look very far beyond the daily newspaper to see the impact of the current Corey check system, where we have recent charges against a coach who did in fact have a police record in the state of Maryland. He's been charged and had to be, he actually had fled to Maryland when he saw the charges coming. I would say that if it's one instance versus our 1,600 students' safety, I don't see the question even at the volunteer level. I believe what we should do is look at efforts to fund for those that can't afford the $35 for the fingerprint. It's going to become a convenience in terms of having it in Fall River, where they can go and have it done, possibly have the portable here if we have 40 students. But this is a huge issue. It's right up there in terms of my priority with another issue I've brought up previously, child safety zones. It's been dropped off our new business agenda. We've never addressed it. I've asked in the past that we look at establishing child safety zones around all of our schools, and I would strongly urge this school committee to adopt this well-thought-out legislation for protecting every single student. It's not a statement about volunteers. It's not a roadblock at $35 once, not once a year, once.
No, one time, yes.
One time, $35 for an opportunity to step in to our students' lives. And if it can't be afforded, we'll figure out a way. I'm sure if it's coaches, I would imagine the athletic boosters may be able to participate. We can go looking for funding somewhere for this. I don't see anything in the legislation that says we have to charge.
No, in fact, it opens us up to vote on, or for you to vote on hardship exemptions and waivers to the fees. However, for employees specifically, I didn't ask for volunteers. For employees specifically, it's very frowned upon to offer a hardship or a waiver. For volunteers, where, low income, reduced lunch or free lunch, I'm sure it's a different issue. I don't know that there would be any kind of funding out there since this is so brand new. I don't generally have much to do with any kind of funding in HR. However, just bear in mind that whatever you decide for volunteers has to be very separate from employees, and the employees is frowned against for any kind of hardship or waiver.
Melissa?
I'd like to make a motion to require our volunteers to do a fingerprint. It's $35. I'm a volunteer. I pay it, and I agree with Michael if it takes one.
Second?
All right, just to remind everyone that a school, a child, the safest place that a child can be is still in a school building. The teachers have to get fingerprinted, the staff has to get fingerprinted. Obviously, we don't want anything bad to happen to anybody, but all the laws in the world and all the good intent in the world can't stop, some crazy person from doing something terrible. I don't know. I think asking volunteers. Yeah, sure. All of us up here, I'm sure. Okay, I'll pay the 30. You know what? There's a lot of people out there that would just say, forget it. And a lot of people do get caught just for that one field trip. Johnny's going to Plymouth Plantation, and Mommy or Daddy are going to go along with him. And, that's been going on forever.
Tony, when you're done, I have another question.
Anyway, so, yesterday we didn't do this. We start this tomorrow, and we are going to do the staff. We have to do the staff. What's next? Do we fingerprint everybody that in town? I don't know.
So, and this is a hypothetical, what happens to the person that comes to the orientation and doesn't think about wanting to go to the field trip? And then all of a sudden, the field trip comes, and they say, oh, I want to sign up for the field trip. Are they required to be fingerprinted, which is a 1 to 2 month process, when the field trip is a week from now, which I just got notice of a field trip?
Well, just two things.
I don't mean to be throwing questions at you, but
Well, and
She's nervous
unfortunately,
already.
what I know is in this packet, and just the questions I have had the opportunity to ask Lucy Wall. From the Corey standpoint, when I first started here, granted it's only been 2 years, the Coreys took about a week and a half to get back. So they were notified of a field trip. They obviously couldn't be Coreyed right away. Now, we had the Corey Reform Law of May 2012, so now the Coreys come back almost instantly unless they've been randomly audited. So that usually means I process 500 Coreys because you have to do the maiden name, the aliases, and the current last name, and if they're hyphenated, all, 2 names in that as well. So when I'm doing those, if you're audited, it could take up to a month for your Corey to come back anyways. But the system has improved so quickly that it does come back overnight. With the fingerprinting, they won't give us a deadline just because it's so brand new. However, I'm sure this year it could take 2 months, 3 months. They tell us one thing, and we find that things are very different very quickly. However, in a couple of years, once they roll out the process with quarries, hopefully it would be immediately. Especially as people are maybe moving from town to town, they've already been fingerprinted, their reports already generated and done, it just needs to be updated. No matter what, they still have a process to go through, they still have a time frame. When they have a quarry, if it's a field trip, that's the next day, and unfortunately I'm the only one who's eligible to do them per the state in human resources, or if somebody comes into human resources after me, they will still have to do all of their other job and then the quarry. So even though it comes back immediately, it could take another 3-4 days just because the quarry's not the priority, even though the field trip's tomorrow. So it'd be the same thing with fingerprinting.
Well, but no, I mean, when you fingerprint, number one, the person has to go to the site to get
Right.
fingerprinted. Those fingerprints have to get shipped to the FBI.
I mean, the schools do a good job at the beginning of the year, letting parents know that, hey, if you intend on going on a field trip, you need to do your
But we
quarry
do-
now, you don't wait for the last minute, I mean, we do that. And usually, in my
Well,
case,
we
a
do
note
have
comes
a
home,
lot
if,
of
if you're gonna
last
volunteer, make sure you've been quarried, blah, 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 and I don't know.
I do about after the school year starts, so aside from October, which is usually when the quarries slow down, after October, I usually do about 20 quarries a day. And that's
20 a
only
day.
one name, because they have to do it every year per our district's policy, even though the law regulates a maximum of 3 years. So, they expire all the time. People are coming in left and right, or they don't know if it's done, so they do it again. Or they do it in one school, and then they do it in the next school, because the schools aren't telling them, they only need it once. So they are being processed multiple times.
My hang up on Michael, the reason I pulled my motion back is Michael's comment on Rhode Island, which honestly I hadn't even realized, hadn't even thought of it. We do live so close to Rhode Island, very easy for somebody to head over here, and we have no idea whatever their past was. That's a concern. In no way, shape, or form am I in favor of not fingerprinting parents going on field trips. I think that if you're going on a field trip, I want to know, if you're taking my child, that you have as clean of a record as the state, the government, whomever can make sure. And personally, I think we should be fingerprinting, if that's what they're saying, all of our anytime our children leave the building with a parent to go on a field trip. My hang up is more within the school. I don't know that I see a lot of volunteers with children by themselves. I do sometimes see them in the hallway sitting and reading because the classrooms are busy and they just don't have room for stations. I don't know that I consider that alone so much because the doors are usually open, the teachers are right there. Although I'm sure it happens. I don't know. This is a tough one. This is really a tough one. And for me, I mean, the $35 times $1,500, that's $50,000 almost. That's a lot of money for us to come up with if we help certain, even if a quarter of them or a third of them, it's for somebody to come up with is a lot of money. I don't know.
They could do, bus drivers fall under our employees?
Under employees, yes, they are mandatory.
Okay.
Taxi
Melissa?
drivers, whole category.
Any subcontractor, which we have to vote on to.
Oh, I had one more question, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
When would this roll out? So, say we voted right now to, yes, do this, with specifically our volunteers, not our staff. When would this be rolling out, and would this prevent anybody moving forward to go on anything coming up?
Our hard launch is in January. However, I haven't, like I said, I hadn't gotten the email yet. I haven't gotten the email yet of the website and the vendor for them to go to. For our employees who have started in January, after July 1, it has to be immediate
This
for
past
them.
July 1?
Yes, July 1,
Okay.
2013. So
Employees?
employees. They have to be right away. Volunteers, where it's at the district level, you could essentially vote to say by 2015 to give people adequate notice.
Okay.
No matter what, they still will be quarried. And then your quarry policy, if you're requiring them to be fingerprinted, could be changed as well. Could be still every year as you voted on, or it could be the maximum 3 years per the statute. So those are other things that will be in effect
So
once you, if
fingerprinting
you
is
vote.
3 years?
No.
Fingerprinting is permanent. Quarry,
What's the 3 years?
Quarry,
Oh.
maximum of 3 years, but our
So we
district
ha-
has
so
a
we
policy
have-
for every year,
Right.
for volunteers.
So we have an employee's fingerprint. So teacher A gets fingerprinted tomorrow. She goes through the process. So 3 years down the road, that person commits a felony in some other state. We would be notified of that felony.
No, we wouldn't.
No.
So what's the sense of doing it then?
The,
It only picks up
This-
past crimes.
So
and the
what's the
state
sense
has
of doing it if it doesn't
decided,
pick
the
up?
state has, the state has told us
That's the problem.
that if they're working for us, we are going to be aware of things that are going on.
Really?
They're,
A motion to, well, we got a motion. We got a motion to
Can I-
approve
can I-
all of these on the table.
I have one more question
a
though, even
second.
regarding that.
And it's 9:00.
Maybe
10.
for an employee, you know kind of what your employees are doing, but if you have a one-time volunteer, say they just come for one trip, field trip every year, we don't know what they're doing when they go home, they're volunteers, so will the state ever decide that you have to re-up your fingers on the
They
thing,
believe-
or?
they believe this will be the lifetime for the employment of at the district, or for the base of the time that they volunteer here.
So it's like
So in
doing
the
a quarry
event,
for 1 year.
so in the event that they're a volunteer for 1 year, their student transfers out because they move, they come back, they're now considered a new volunteer in the eyes of the state.
We got a motion to,
So, two questions on the
Melissa.
motion. One question is, could we have a policy, or would this be like crazy, where our volunteers
This is crazy.
aren't alone with our children? That's just it, that they just cannot, and if they do, then they need to get fingerprinted. But I think of the nightmare of, is that gonna be too
Well,
nightmarish for you?
Considering, I mean, I honestly don't understand, excuse me, I don't really know what goes on specifically in each classroom or building level. I mean, in HR, I really only see evaluations and discipline, and the occasional good news. But if there's a parent in maybe the hallway reading, as they had mentioned, maybe we no longer will allow that. But that would be a building-based decision, so the principals would then have to take responsibility. You know, maybe the parent won't be taking the children to the bathroom anymore, where we just kind of minimize the risk of direct and unmonitored contact then. And then they won't necessarily need to be fingerprinted.
And then the second question is,
table this.
and I don't know if this is a school policy or not, but our movie nights that the PTO does, those volunteers, are those Corey checked volunteers?
Yes.
Okay, then, because those volunteers can be alone with a child, because it's not, I mean, they go to
There
the
is
bathroom.
an
they're
administrator in the building, but
There is, but they
Yes.
could, so those would be, like, those would, people I would almost think, because they're more likely, like, it's almost like, what are the risk levels? Like, if they're just volunteering in the classroom, do they need to be fingerprinted? No, I don't think so. But if there's, that'd be maybe level 1 and then level 2. So, but it's not for me to decide, so I wonder if maybe if I withdraw my motion, can you think about it, maybe get back to me on how we could best reduce our risk level to our students, or not reduce it,
Absolutely, and I'd be happy, we have an administrative meeting next Tuesday morning, and I could put this out on the table with the administrators and actually collect some hard data on the frequency that really, in their opinion, happens.
Oh, you withdrawing that motion? Your second?
Melissa made it.
No, the second. Who
No,
made the
I
motion?
have a question, I seconded it.
Oh, you seconded it.
Yes, that's why I'd like to
Go
ask
ahead,
you a
Mike.
question to formulate my decision. The Macumber School, is that under the jurisdiction at all of the Department of Early Education and Care?
No.
Okay, because they're under certain scrutiny statewide in Massachusetts for the way they handle background checks and the sex offender registry.
However,
So I'm
we do have Head Start using one classroom over at the Macumber School, and that does fall under that agency.
I'd like
So,
to just try.
whether or
try
not
to answer.
that agency has volunteers in the building, can we make, and I'm withdrawing my motion, but my last thought is, we should make an all-encompassing policy to improve the overall safety environment of our students, especially having heard that the Corey checks don't capture offenses outside of the state of Massachusetts. That's very
I just
concerning.
want to chime in. I included in the packet, the EEC has their own background check and their own SORI check laws that are rolled out that will be independent from the DESC's background check law. So if our employees at the Macomber level happen to hold an EEC license and a DESC license, they will be required to do both background checks. However, where we're not an EEC district, per se, exclusive of Head Start, who really is only using our buildings, we don't need to regulate it. But they will have a higher fee. They'll also need to do background checks, which will be more inclusive, and SORI checks, so sexual offender record information checks. In addition to that, anybody falling under the EEC who has something occurring at home, sometimes we have host families, say it was part of the EEC for whatever reason, every single individual in that home would have to have a separate EEC background check and SORI. So independent from today, I just ask that we don't consider the EEC because it's a whole nother set of laws and they haven't finalized them yet. And the impact is going to be very different from the DESC's act relative to background checks.
Can I just ask for an explanation from, for moving forward, a question that they can answer? Not for tonight, but I'm hoping for a clarification as to why the state feels that it's okay that a fingerprint one time giving us all the past information, something happens in the next 10 years, we have no idea that that happened. I'm confused as to how that makes any sense.
Lobbyists.
Right.
And I'd like an explanation
Privacy.
as to, why if we're requiring queries every 3, they're requiring queries, we're doing 1, they're doing 3, it's picking up anything in that interim. This makes no sense to me when, it'll show up in the back, but what happens 5 years down the road? Or you come in with a kindergartner and you leave with a 12th grader, but you've got all that middle time. So they may not have an explanation, but I'm curious.
We had asked something similar, I didn't personally, but the folks out in Berkshire did, because they're so close to the New York border. They had asked that, which was very relevant to us being a border town as well. They said that by doing the queries every year, or maximum every 3 years, it's supposed to go hand in hand. And eventually they hope the fingerprint will be,
But being
coinciding
close to
with
Rhode
it.
Island, obviously that doesn't happen.
That was their answer. I mean, I will be happy to email them. I was only fortunate to talk to Lucy Wall and Mike Gilbert, Lucy Wall from DESE and Mike Gilbert from Mask. But I will ask the, I don't know who I actually asked. I just email a miscellaneous background check email. But they'll get back to me usually in about 2 weeks' time.
Okay, all right, so, okay, all right. Okay.
Table it.
You guys withdrew the motion.
Yeah, they did.
Mickey, just to clarify here so we can move on. The new staff, you still need a motion and
We
approval
must
for
vote
that.
on them today, yes.
So I would make a motion that staff, we follow the law and new staff get fingerprinted, but whatever the motion needs to be, so.
Is she going to write that down,
Can
whatever
I
the
write-
motion needs to be?
She's going to read my
Can
mind.
It's her first
Tony, I
day.
can make the motion.
Can
Make
I
the motion.
suggest
There they go.
something?
So
So
staff,
It should be all staff, not just new staff.
all
When you're
staff,
voting.
all staff. yeah. Not-
Subcontractors,
No,
construct.
just staff.
Just staff right now?
We would fingerprint them too, wouldn't we?
No, just staff.
The subcontractors are supposed to have their own separate motion.
Well, Those
Okay.
guys
Because
are
there's
separate.
various
Student
levels
teachers,
of
observ-
subcontract.
Nobody on this list.
Yeah, where's the staff?
Well, the staff is not on the
Staff-
list, but the
staff's
staff is the.
mandatory by law.
Yeah, the staff is
So then we don't have
mandatory.
to vote on it.
Well, we don't need to vote
Not
on the
on
staff.
employees.
You
No,
don't
they
have
have
to
to
Okay,
do it no
then
matter
I,
what.
okay, then I forget
But-
what I just said, and I make a
You have
motion that we
something
table
nice.
this
It's a
till
little weird.
No, but we
January.
need to
But-
vote on the subcontractors.
No, we're
and
gonna
the
table it,
student
because we're not
teachers.
ready to vote on this.
Okay, fine.
I make a motion that we put this
However,
off.
with the employees, you must vote on the hardship exceptions and waivers to the fees tonight. So that way, when it's rolled out in January for new employees and current employees, we have a basis on whether
All
we're
right, so
going to
before the
provide them a
table
hardship.
motion, we'll do the waiver motion.
Can I just ask a question? Can we change our vote later on? Can we change it?
Absolutely.
If we vote yes today and then 3 months from now we decide that was a bad idea, can we change it? It's not
Yeah,
cast in
I
stone?
don't know.
Yes.
Okay, so then
Yeah, we can do whatever.
I move that we,
Hold on, slow down.
I want to get out of here, guys.
Monet, who's got a,
Who's got a motion on the table right now?
No one
Nobody.
right now. I move that we not allow hardship exceptions and waivers to fees for employees.
I'll second that.
Any discussion to that? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, and I motion to table
The rest.
the fingerprint, whatever, for
Second.
for the 6 on that list, for the 5 on that list, whatever.
The rest of them.
Do you have any other questions you'd like me to bring to the background check?
We'll pepper you with emails.
Okay, please.
Yeah, the idea
And
that we
then-
fingerprint someone tomorrow and they commit a crime the next day and we don't hear about it is like a waste
I
of
think the biggest
$55.
question for us is being so close to a border and not being in the center of a state, you know, our Corey checks don't cover Rhode Island, and, I mean, that's, you know,
No,
4
We have
minutes away.
teachers that live
so-
in Rhode Island.
Yeah, we have
Right.
teachers that live in Rhode Island.
Right.
More than half of our employees live in Rhode Island.
And
There you
Mickey,
go.
and the Corey also, right? So I'm
The
Corey
doesn't
today.
see anything out of state, nothing. that
No,
applies
okay,
out of
but in state, so we Corey someone today, comes back good. That person commits a felony tomorrow.
You don't know it.
In
They don't
Rhode Island.
notify us.
Even-
We would only catch that on the next time we Corey them.
Correct.
Only if it was in Massachusetts.
No, even if, in
No.
Mass.
In Mass.
If-
So if
if
they
I-
Oh,
committed
they
a
live in
crime
Rhode
today,
Island?
our biggest one that I see most often for volunteers is check fraud. So they commit check fraud tomorrow at Stop and Shop or wherever. We won't find out till next year when they're quarried.
Yeah, so we don't pick, they don't notify, a Corey doesn't notify us of
It just picks up the past.
only the past.
And the way I understand it
We
is
all know
Rhode
how that
Island
goes.
doesn't notify you immediately, nor does New Hampshire. But those are
Okay.
the only two states that I
But we
reached out
wouldn't
to.
see that anyway.
Michael?
Rhode
Not on a
Island.
court.
Well,
No, but
again, I don't,
Their reports aren't showing it immediately either.
Go ahead, Michael.
I don't want to lose focus of the purpose of this legislation. It's not to catch someone who passed a bad check at Stop and Shop, okay? This is serious legislation. If someone is arrested for a major criminal violation, it's not a sealed record, okay?
It
I have
can
a
be after 5 years.
You actually can see
After,
5 to 10
felonies.
years.
after 5 years.
5
But
to
what
10
I'm
years,
suggesting
depending.
is if someone's been arrested for a serious violation and charged, obviously they've been arrested, they've been charged, I honestly believe that those that are involved in the prosecution have the ability and inclination to drop a dime to let the employer know if there's some potential for harm's way. So, you know, let's have some common sense, which is what I'm relying on as I react to today's Herald News regarding a Fall River instance. Okay, so that's public record. But we have to recognize that the checks and balances are there, certainly for offenses that would put our students in harm's way.
So I have a motion on the table to table. Was that passed? Did we vote on that?
Yes, we did.
All right, we're good.
Right, we voted.
Nikki, anything else?
Great job.
Monet, you good?
It's after.
I like that.
Downhill.
All right,
Yeah, it's an artsy name.
all right, guys, it's 9:25.
Move on.
And these times on here are Atlantic times.
You were
Atlantic
actually
time
on
zone.
time at the
Nice.
beginning of the action.
All right, next on the action agenda, approval to increase food service substitute pay.
I move that we increase the substitute pay from $8.50, I think it was, to $9.50 an hour.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of the 2014 school committee meeting calendar.
No.
That's in here. And I've been asked, where is that? I know way back when, way before my time, and maybe most of us, I don't know. In December, November, there was usually only one school committee meeting. Where is that? Is that listed here?
Is the calendar in here?
Oh, yes, it is, Michael. Right. It's actually in front of that last yellow page, Mike. And then July and August, no scheduled meetings.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, go ahead.
I have concerns, especially when school is in session,
Mhm.
that we have situations that happened like today, that if we go almost 4 weeks without a meeting, then things like what happened today happen. I think we should meet twice in November. We may have to jury-rig the weeks, but I think we should meet twice in November, twice in December, and I think we should meet at least once in July and August. I don't think we should take a full summer break. I think that things happen in the summer that require us, and one meeting a month for July and August, I don't think is excessive. So I would...
I mean, our history shows that we do end up meeting, usually.
Well, we have been because of issues. So scheduling it, to me, at least it's there, I know it's there, I'm not planning a vacation and then not being able to attend a meeting, you know. Or I can tell you in advance that I'm not gonna be there because I know there's a meeting.
And then the whole, November, Christmas, obviously we have, Thanksgiving break there.
Yeah, we'd have
We
to
have
jury...
Christmas vacation. Basically, we'd end up having to have 2 meetings back to back, and
No, because this, it would be the 4th and the 18th. And I think next year it would be the same, similar type of thing. It depends. You just have to off-cycle them a little bit. That's all.
yeah, what are your comments on that?
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I agree. So if you look in October,
Is that a nod or
we're meeting October 8th, according to this calendar, and then the 22nd. You could actually have a meeting November 5th, which would still be 2 weeks away, so it isn't
So
even
the
that...
5th and the what?
12th.
And
No, the 12th would move back one.
Oh, to the 19th.
Right. In November,
so it would be the 5th and the 19th,
correct.
Right.
and then December?
You could have the 3rd as well as then the 17th.
Okay.
We could have a Christmas party, a holiday
Well,
party.
And then we want to do one each in July and August.
And we know historically it's been somewhere around July 9th or 10th that we have had a meeting the last couple of years, so we could certify.
We have one to close out the books.
Correct. So we need one around the second week in July for
But
that
those weren't on the
reason.
calendar though, right? We would just schedule those.
They weren't on the calendar, it was based on when, because something, Melissa, it usually fell around Melissa and what she had to do for certain things.
And when school got out for the
Right,
year.
so it changed, and I
Yep.
think that's why we didn't schedule it.
So the
Could
3rd
we-
week in July?
Could we,
Put a TBD.
but I think there was a reason it couldn't go beyond a certain date too. Is it possible to put like a to be announced on there so
Sure.
that we know that there's something gonna happen within the first 2 weeks of
To be
July?
determined.
But because that was really determined by Melissa.
Correct, because she's
And-
got to get her report then to the state.
Right,
Last
and their
year it was
timeline.
July 9th.
All right,
Yep.
so we'll do one each in July and August, and those dates will be forthcoming.
So why don't we pass over till it comes back to us?
I don't know how soon, well, we have to get this on the website.
Just some
Well, we don't have
housekeeping.
to, we
Well,
always have, it's always,
January. Well,
it's a-
This goes yearly, that's why we do this now, Michael.
In November,
have to.
Thanksgiving break starts on the 27th, I believe, and then in December, it's the 24th.
Just
kinda-
27? Thanksgiving break, well, that's
Yeah, well,
late.
that's what it says on the next page. Unless I'm, yeah,
Right.
Thanksgiving
Yeah,
break.
and Karen
is
has it on the
28th.
I didn't realize it was that late.
school committee
And then-
calendar page, yes.
And then December is the 24th. It's just,
Late.
I probably just didn't.
Tony, are we finished with the meeting schedule? Do we need a motion?
Yeah, we do need to approve. it. And Mike was asking why we're doing this now, but for whatever reason, I don't know, but our meeting calendar is
It starts in
the
January.
year, so
so
it starts in
I'd make the
January.
motion to accept the calendar with the
Edits.
revisions as stated.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Tony. Next. Go ahead, next item.
Where else was I gonna go? Approval of this, the calendar, right? So the
Yes.
approval of the 14-15 school year calendar.
I have
Go ahead.
the September 16th
Mm-hmm.
date is a Tuesday, and I know it's been explained to us why we do the Tuesday,
And not the Monday.
but the teacher half-days are always on a Friday. So why can't that day be on a Monday? And then I have another one. And then the November 4th is the Tuesday before Veterans Day. Why can't that day be November 10th? It makes no sense to me, because the kids aren't in school on the 4th, so what difference does it make whether they're not in school on the 4th or the 10th? And the teachers have to be here because they can't take the long weekend, because they got to be here for the training.
Nice glasses. Go ahead.
Both of those dates are election days, and because it's a governor's race this coming year, the feeling was that November 4th, 2 of our schools are used as polling places, and not knowing yet what the candidate pool will look like, that's why we opted for September 16th, also because it's an election day.
Election for what on the 16th?
It is the primary election for the governor's race.
I was trying to get you a 4-day weekend.
Hey, I'm all for it. I tried last year. I'm gonna get a lot of.
We never have school on election days?
We stopped doing that a year or 2 ago.
We have had it in September, but those usually aren't big races. But again, this year it's the race for the governor. So usually the governor and the presidential race bring out more people at the polling places. One of the years we tried an early release day, and it was a fiasco over at the Macomber School. So it's either better to have school and keep the kids safe, or not have school at all.
I
Or
personally
fingerprint everybody that goes
Yeah.
to vote.
I personally, there's no way, especially at Macomber, to keep the kids safe with all of those people coming in and out. You just can't do it over there.
I don't even know why we need that.
I have one more thing.
Commissioner,
Hold on.
So now going to December, this year we have 2 weeks. The difference between leaving on the Monday, the 22nd, is a day and a half. To have the kids come into school on Monday and then have a half a day on Tuesday, right before Christmas, when they're not concentrating on anything but their Christmas lists, I think is a waste of educational resources. The teachers would be happier to be home, and the kids would be happier to be home. I don't think a day and a half is going to
So
kill us.
so if I hear you correctly, next year, that Christmas, New Year's vacation
Hang on,
begins
let me
on
pull it up.
Tuesday with a half a day?
Correct.
Yes.
But the holiday is on a Thursday.
Here's December.
So it's like a week and 4 days next year. Or this
Right.
year, it's like 2 full weeks, right?
It's 2 full weeks. So
the
since it's only
20
a day and a half difference in my mind,
So the 23rd is on a Tuesday.
correct.
And that's why you gave me the calendar.
Correct.
Yes. Melissa?
I personally think that having 2 weeks this year is too many, and I would have had them come in.
Boo.
Yes, I would. I mean, unless we're going to take away the February vacation. I mean, our idea is to have our kids educated, so.
No, they still do the 180 days. This is just moving the days around.
Yeah, but then you're taking away from the summer, right? They're going there.
No, we're just moving,
So then
changing,
if- so
it's a
then-
professional day.
so
That
what-
half day is a professional.
So wait a minute, so you're saying that if we add those 2
Historically, it
days,
hasn't
It's a
been.
day and a half. not
if you
two.
add that day and a half in Christmas, then we're going to take it away or add it to the end of the year to make the 180?
No.
We adding it to the end of the year?
Yeah, but we have 5 extra days unless there's snow days.
So we would still be somehow adding it in there.
We
So
live
you're
near the water. It doesn't
confusing.
warm up till July anyway.
I'm just
The
not
way
in-
we're
I'm just-
doing 2 weeks this year, where it's Monday through Friday, because the holiday fell
Oh,
on a
is that here?
Wednesday.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm suggesting we do the same thing next year, because we're only saving a day and a half by not, the kids are coming in on Monday and then a half a day on Tuesday. And I don't know about your kids, but I know my kids are learning nothing.
No,
This is not a learning experience. They're coloring, they're playing, they're eating candies, they're eating cookies, they're having parties. They can do that at my house.
Can you
I
explain what
think
you're
our-
suggesting?
Oh, my God. 2 weeks, Monday through
Yeah,
Oh, I
Friday.
get
Well, now,
that,
so you
but
gotta
where are the
get your
days
mallet out.
moving?
To the bottom, we have 5
Hit me
extra
with-
days.
All right,
in
Michael,
rotation.
you got the floor, Michael.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the Westport Community Schools calendar as presented with one addition, changing the winter recess period from December, so it's 20, what was here?
22 and 23, to include the 22nd and the
So
23rd.
So it begins on the 21st,
No, the 22nd.
so it includes, so.
The 22nd is a
school
Monday.
Begins,
22nd's on a Monday.
so they go to school on the 22nd.
No, they
No,
don't.
no.
Okay, so winter recess is December 22nd through January 2nd,
That's right.
and the last day of school is June 19th.
The day of the week is June 19th.
I don't know the calendar. June 19th.
Thursday,
Yeah,
2014, right?
yeah, but I had one more, which was Memorial Day.
No, 2015.
No, 2015.
Oh,
It's a Friday.
long session.
Okay, well, I can't move that one.
The 19th is a Friday.
Can I make a friendly amendment to that?
You can make an amendment.
I'm
Friendly
sorry,
or
I
not.
think it doesn't, I think it benefits the teachers as well. It's not just us and the kids. So the teachers have a half day on May 15th,
As
right?
soon as we approve this calendar, as soon as we get home, everyone's gonna say, we gotta go to school on Monday and then we're off? You know, that's what happens every year.
So the early release day is on May 15th. Yet Memorial Day is the 25th. Why isn't the early release day on the 22nd so that they can have that extra half day?
There's no reason why you can't move that.
And that
If-
doesn't affect anything.
It doesn't affect anything. It's nice having an early release day in May because that's when transition meetings can take place so that first grade teachers can talk to second grade teachers, second grade can talk to third grade, et cetera. So it's usually class planning day. So that's the importance of having an early release in May, but you can decide when you'd like to
But
have
the
it.
22nd wouldn't be too late.
It wouldn't be too late.
That's
So-
only the next week, it looks like,
Right, so
I
can I
mean,
amend?
there's a chance that it overlaps with MCAS, but on
I don't have a second.
an early
so
release day,
I-
we can
I
still
can't-
administer it in the morning.
Oh, I'll second your motion, Michael. I thought, wasn't it already
So-
second? It wasn't, I'll second it.
So can I
All right,
make
so-
a friendly
so- so the-
amendment?
So the motion on the table right now is to change the
December vacation.
December winter recess from the 22nd to the 2nd,
Mhm.
and remove the December 23rd early release. Right, obviously.
What do we
Correct, yes, correct.
Yes.
So we're going to extend winter recess 2 days earlier, to December 22nd to January 2nd.
What are our sister districts or our local, because it's my understanding that all the districts around us this year are going to school. Our vacation's like
And
the
they all
longest.
wishing they were us.
They may be, but I don't know about the, I don't know if that's the right thing to do. I mean, our mission is to have our kids educated, not to have them home eating candy and,
No, they're going to get
watching TV,
educated
but-
Thursday and Friday in June.
They're getting the same amount of days.
Same amount of days. We
But then-
can't,
so
we can't
what is-
shorten the year.
So then what happens if we have a whole bunch of snow days?
We still have the snow days in, either way.
It just pushes it back
Pushes it
regardless.
Well, all I
And
know
yes,
is
it
that our
pushes
other
it later. You're
districts
correct.
aren't doing that. So that, to me, would be
Yeah,
a
they're,
reason.
their district's starting in August, too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second.
And then,
My motion stands.
so you don't want to move the half-day to the Friday before Memorial Day?
Well, you can make an amendment. You want to make
Okay,
that
yep,
amendment?
that's
So that's
fine.
an amendment. So we get an amendment to move,
No, there's no amendment.
she's making an amendment.
She's requesting an amendment.
No, there's no, you don't need to request. If she gets a second, she has an amendment. It changes. Well, you're changing his motion
Right,
to add.
yeah, changing the
Moving
May
that day.
15th to May 22nd.
I call the vote. There's been a motion. There's been a second. There's been discussion. You don't amend a motion that's on the table. You can request.
Oh, you don't have to request. She can amend.
So fine, I'll vote no. And I'll make my own motion.
It might not
People
pass,
wanna
but I'm
give
just
it
trying to
one
move it
week.
along.
It's like ridiculous.
So we have a motion and a second. We do have an amendment, Michael. We have an amendment to add moving the half-day in May up. So now we have to vote on that amendment, which changes the motion, Michael, if it passes. So we have a
But-
motion on Carolina's amendment, a second on her amendment.
I will second the amendment.
So, question on the
So now the motion is recess vacation from Monday, this 22nd December, and that May, what's the other one?
May 15th.
So May 25th on 2014 calendar is a Sunday, unless I
This is
missed it.
we're
2015.
talking 15.
Not 14. This is next year's school
It's a
calendar.
Monday. It's a Monday. The 22nd is a Friday.
Next year, when you're gonna want the 2 weeks vacation.
This is next year's school calendar, not this year's.
Not this year, next year.
The 15th is a Friday, the
You get a whole
22nd
year,
is a Friday,
Right.
and the 25th is the Monday.
And your flying options are much better.
Hey, it's 9:42, I'm sorry.
So it's just moving the half-day from the 15th to
To the
1 week
22nd.
later to the 22nd.
Sort of a 4-day.
Yeah.
So did we get a second on that motion?
I
We did.
seconded
So any
our motion.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No.
Motion passes. Okay, thank you. What's next? Approval of the superintendent's contract. And,
Point of information.
yes, Mike.
Your vote was to pass the amendment to the motion.
We cha-
There is now a motion on the
Yes,
floor,
yes.
which you need to
Yes, I'm sorry.
address.
Yes, we need another vote. So the motion passes, now we need a vote on the motion,
Which is amended.
which is the amendment, yes.
I said yes to the amendment.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, superintendent's contract, and FYI, in the packet, there was a misprint, and I passed out,
It's right here.
repaired
Where?
fixed version.
Where's
And
the
it was
dollar amount?
under the compensation, there was an amount that was written correctly, but the numerical
Oh, the
number
the
was
number
different.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else had caught that. Our esteemed recording secretary caught that and let me know.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the contract as amended.
Second, need a second? You guys need a second? The other kind of second. Get it?
Nice.
Was that a motion?
That was a motion.
Could you repeat the motion? I was reading something else.
Go ahead.
Adopt the
It
contract?
was a motion to accept the contract as amended. Or this,
Well, it
Accept,
wasn't
well,
amended.
not amend, accept the contract.
accept the contract.
Yeah.
That's, you had me on that.
The one.
Second.
The one with the corrected number, numerical. Any discussion?
I just want to say, it's nothing personal.
The contract's not personal?
No, I was speaking to
Okay.
the superintendent.
And, anyway, so, discussion, we've,
Actually, I do have a question. This is,
well, we're in discussion, we haven't voted. So.
this is sent from the attorney, is
Yes.
that correct?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he took a look at this
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
he adjusted whatever?
Yeah, and he's actually the one that made that one boo-boo there that he fixed. Yes, that was the attorney. I went back and forth a couple of times. So anyway, so we've negotiated with Dr. Dargan, and we have a contract and agreed to, well, mutual, we have a contract that we agreed to, and so that's what we're voting on today, which makes Dr. Dargan the interim superintendent with an option for another year after that. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay. Budget Subcommittee report. Mr. Sullivan or Ms. Chico?
I'd like to make a motion to table that to the next meeting, if possible.
Second.
Discussion? Just all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Just an FYI, as Dr. Dargan stated earlier, we did have a CPIC meeting. It's, capital stuff. And we have another meeting Tuesday, which, again, it's capital improvement stuff, but it's important we get that to them because they need to get it to the Board of Selectmen meeting following Monday. And, it's my understanding that, they need a list, a good list, and when I say a good list, I mean, an actual prioritized list of capital improvements that we need, so that they can then use them for the battle. Yes, Mike?
Yeah, I
How?
just want to be very clear on the new developments in the capital improvement efforts by the town. I applaud the effort. It takes some pressure off the operating budget and will in fact align, if we're able to fund some of our capital improvement needs from the amounts of money they want to put into a capital fund, then I applaud it. I am very concerned that you've come back today to report to us that they're not aware of any capital needs of the schools. We have had prioritized documents. It might have been 3 years ago when I was on the Capital Improvement Committee. The document was very clear. It aligned nicely with the 4 years ago override effort, which was a majority of capital needs. So with that comment made, it makes sense to postpone the budget subcommittee report because that has a major effect on the operating budget if in fact the capital improvements budget, if the same ratio is going to be applied to the 500,000, which is going to be seeding that fund, that schools will be seeing 52% of the capital improvement funds for our needs, because we've been waiting for quite a while.
Michael, I've been on that CPIC for a year and a half or so, and no, we have submitted lists with numbers in last year. We did do that, and I said it yesterday at the meeting. Our list is so big that they get lists from a few other departments. They needed this, they need that, and they can wrap their head around some of these numbers, big as they are. But the school capital needs list is just, it's like we just choose to ignore that we even have capital needs. So, there's new people there now, and no, you're right. We have submitted lists. We have a list, and so all we're doing is, which we do every year, is just streamlining it a little bit and presenting it to them on Tuesday, and the other departments are also going to be there to prioritize their lists. But yes, Michael, you're absolutely right.
So I guess what I'm just wondering is our presentation for FinCom, and this is important for the liaisons to know, should our operating budget that we go forward with include our capital needs as in the past, or are we now saying that those items will be pulled out and put into a capital needs priority list?
Point of order, the capital thing is not on the agenda.
Yeah, we're getting a little off, but.
It's
And we
very,
tabled the budget subcommittee report. We tabled it. We voted to table it.
We did.
We voted on it already?
Yes.
I got a nod. All right, we're good. I just threw that out there for whatever. Routine matters, approval of the minutes of Wednesday, October 16th, 2013.
Can we table the 16th and the 23rd? I've looked at them. There's a bunch of red insertions, several of which have my name attached to them. I'd like the ability to watch the tape that happened a couple of months ago and at least verify that what I said, what's being now quoted that I said was said. Because most of the redlining is there's a lot of addition of what I supposedly said.
Which one, 16 and
The
23?
16 and the 23rd. I was
The
not
ones
here
that
on the
I
13th.
Sent to Karen.
Okay. So that's a motion to table those, to give you some time to,
Yes, please.
is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
yeah, no, we've had this for a week and a half.
You mean the packet?
Packet.
Yeah, a week, yeah. Okay.
But Karen's been out
I had an
too.
I had an opportunity to review the red notes. it's already been tabled once, and seemed to fall in line with my recollection of the meeting. I just don't want to keep kicking it down the down the road. Is there any particular concerns that we can identify today?
Yeah, if they hadn't been quoted specifically about what I said, I wouldn't have objected, but I'd like the ability to review
Okay.
what it is that has been added to the minutes.
Okay,
That's
so
all.
as we're if I'm still being recognized?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. I would then wonder if we need to have this packet 3 weeks before the meeting in order to review
right,
it.
Michael.
We've had it for a week and a
That's a
half.
dig. Okay.
We all had an opportunity to look at it, and we should have.
My understanding is the last time those minutes came to the table, somebody asked for them to be tabled so that they could review them. I'm asking for the same courtesy.
If I could, what I did is I didn't ask, I asked for them to be changed, and Karen asked that I go through and send the changes to her. So it wasn't that I didn't review them. I did review them and knew that they needed to be changed, because they didn't, in my mind, accurately reflect some of the things that I wanted on the record.
Any more discussion? So there's a motion to table the 16th and the 23rd minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approval of the minutes, Wednesday, November 13th, 2013.
Motion to approve.
That was our last meeting, right?
Yeah, I wasn't here.
Yeah, Carolyn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well,
Abstain.
discussion first. Okay. School committee business?
Tony? I didn't mention this when we were going over the school committee rules and ethics, and I don't even know if it fits under this, but I'm going to say it anyways. One of the reasons that I wanted this to be in here was because our duties is to accept the will of the majority of the vote, and then to remember that we're part of a team, and then that committee, once the decision has been made, to be accepted by all, and then to vote and act in the committee impartially for the good of our students. And I think we all need to consider that, rather than say, well, I didn't vote in a certain way, so I'm going to not legitimize anything that has to do with that. I think it's unfair to our students in our district.
Through the speaker, thank you.
Tony, can I address that?
No, yes. Quickly.
Well, unfortunately, historically, that's never been the way this committee ran. You've been here since April, but whenever people weren't happy with the majority of the vote, they obstructed. So, I'm sorry.
So then we all just
Okay.
Especially the person
obstruct?
sitting next
So we
to
just
you.
do what's wrong?
Let's go home and get fingerprinted.
That's
Okay.
ridiculous.
Correspondence? Michael, you holding some correspondence in your hand, I see?
Well, if we're
Would you like
over
to
the,
tell us what you're holding there?
if we're over the period of time where offensive accusations are
All right,
lodged,
Michael.
we'll go into the correspondence.
We have a piece of paper here. We have Diamond's agenda
Is it yesterday?
for November 25th,
Close.
in case anybody wants to.
Got it.
We have an email. Basically telling us that we have a school committee meeting today. And we have a manila envelope with a bunch of appointments. Appointment letters? Appointment letters. Okay, so, and we all have those, so. New business requests.
Well, I think relative to the Diamond agenda, it's still a nice opportunity for us to see the type decisions that are made. We've noted that our educational budget in town is coupled with what goes on at Diamond. So I think we talked about having the representative from Diamond come in to see us here. Was that this week? Or maybe that was,
Remember that.
I think it was subcommittee we talked about.
maybe it was the Board of Selectmen or something.
How they used to come every year, didn't they? They used to come to Westport every year, I remember.
Well, they go to the Board of Selectmen and ask
Oh,
for an
they used to come
increase in, but certainly the representative, Mr. Jennings, would, I'd be happy to reach out to him and invite him to,
I think we should all go to Diamond for lunch tomorrow.
well, that's,
If anyone hasn't, it's definitely worth it. Yes.
Can I see?
Can we request that they email us the agenda so that we at least get notice of it in the event that one of us happens to have an interest in attending?
Good idea. Boy, that's good. Just, email us the agenda ahead of time, before the meeting. Any other new business? So for our next meeting, we will maybe have some more information, and all this, the members can do some research on their own about this whole fingerprinting thing, and we'll see if we can't do that next week, at our next meeting. I guess, Michael?
So, my understanding is that should continue as old business on our agenda, or if we haven't, if we have items that have been put on our agenda, they should carry in until they're dispensed with. So, in the case of the fingerprint, we should carry that on our agenda as a pending item. I would ask that included in that discussion be the child safety zone legislation of Massachusetts.
What is that exactly, Mike?
Something
Don't get too much into it.
It's enacted by many communities within the Commonwealth, and lines up the SORI registration with
Okay, I got it.
activities in and around the school
Okay.
system.
Tony,
Caroline?
I'd like that we, I just completely lost my train of thought.
It's okay, we'll come back to you next week.
I'll think of it in a
And I
minute.
just had something too that I just lost.
Oh, I know what it is. The committee, the building committee for the middle school that we formed, we need to more formalize that.
What did we do? What did we do?
I think we created it and then appointed, I think, you and me.
We did?
No.
I don't remember
I don't
appointing anybody, but we created it in the, with the idea that we would decide what the makeup
Up
of
of
the
it
committee
was.
was going to be, and also what it was going to encompass,
Yes.
whether it was going to encompass just the middle school project or district-wide, and what that was going to look
All
like.
right, we're going to run out of tape in 3 minutes. The other
Well,
thing,
we did do that.
Dr. Dargan did contact
MSBA.
MSBA, and conversation probably didn't go that well, but
They will take their final vote mid-December, but the gentleman that I spoke with pretty much let me down very, very gracefully by saying they received 280 applicants last year. 40 were accelerated and 16 were fully funded. So he pretty much was saying if we didn't get invited to come in November, to come before the board to explain our project, pretty much we were not going to be on the approval list
And
this
the
year.
other thing that they said, Anne, if I may, you can stop me if I go astray here, but that they tend not to support remodel type
Correct.
issues.
They want new buildings.
Correct.
They want new buildings.
Correct.
Which, FYI, is what I wanted. Yes.
Can we do an emergency one because of the PCV? I know that was something that we could have done before. Can we still do that?
They did not accelerate our project, so, I'm not familiar on the verbiage on how the SEIs were actually written. However, I could certainly call him and ask him that, but I don't know when the next round will actually be.
So, I mean,
So we
this-
don't know when they're going to open up applications.
Correct. One, I guess, good thing, though, is when they do support and fund new buildings, we are just about maxed out over at the Macumber School, and we're just about maxed out at the elementary school. And that is one of the criteria in order to put in for a new building, is you have to show a great need that you've run out of space.
we certainly won't run out of space over there. Okay, all right, so. What was- Oh, there was something. Jesus.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
No comments
Well,
from
we
the
got-
Going to
Yeah, we're
executive?
going to executive. Hold on, just give me 1 second. Here, give me 1 second, 1 second.
Will it help if I?
No. Well, I'll come to me. Whatever. All right, so we need
You put things on the
Comments and
agenda anyway, so what does it matter?
comments and statements from the public.
You can just add it when you remember it.
Not everybody run at once.
Seeing none. So we need a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining units, not to return into open session.
Motion to adjourn to executive session.
Aye. Second, is there a second?